6:30 now, so we can call the work session to order. Good evening, everyone. Kaz, you wanted to speak about a couple of items before we get to tonight's agenda?
Yes, thank you, Dan. We have two miscellaneous matters to discuss tonight. One pertains to the Planet Fitness. A while back, you had approved the Planet Fitness conditional use permit. As with the planning board and the town board, when a permit is issued, some of the issues that come up are potentially what's going to happen to the exterior of the building. And I think the comment was during that public hearing that nothing was going to take place with the exterior, but in essence, they did go in and they did some trim work and they painted the building. The staff is just requesting that you look at the work that was done. If you're comfortable with it, we'll memorialize the fact that you were. If you're not comfortable with it, we'll contact the applicant and ask them to address, alternatives. So I haven't heard any complaints from anybody. I just want to make sure that you're comfortable with the changes, and if you are, then we'll.
This is the only surface they may change it?
This is all they're going to do. Yeah, they're done.
And we're only talking about the red, not the...
Well, it's actually a purplish.
Yeah.
Purple.
Did they indicate at the hearing that there weren't going to be any exterior changes, which is why it's kind of coming back?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
and there are modifications. So I just want to make sure you're comfortable before we move forward.
Well, I think they were just talking about the painting.
I think they have to come back.
Yeah, the sign was approved. Yes, the signs, they have a permit for their sign. As a matter of fact, just so that you know, there will be a request for another sign. This is on the interior of the plaza. They want to put one for the exterior, which is smaller. That'll be in for the next meeting. But really, we're focusing on the color scheme of the building itself more than anything else.
I personally don't have.
Well, it's probably a little bit of a. I don't have any problem with it. A little bit of a lesson learned that painting. We should make clear in the future that painting is a modification. It's a change.
It's a cosmetic change.
It's kind of important too, because obviously
colors are important.
colors,
Yeah.
facade changes.
if you're thinking about things like the Home Depot, which is a large building, a lot of work went into making sure that the entire building wasn't orange, but they did get the ability to have something of a corporate color scheme. So it is important. And actually, we'll talk about it again tonight in a later application. We'll talk about that before you go up there.
Did the rest of the plaza have more or less a red theme or no?
It's changing, yeah.
It's
And they did go to the
different.
planning board for their approvals for the color schemes, and so they're in compliance.
Now, wouldn't the planning board hear a color change?
No,
more
because
so?
if the planning board had issued the conditional use permit, yes, it would have, but in this case, you were the ones that granted the approval.
Okay.
Okay? So I guess I'd like to have a motion made in a second.
I'll move that this modification, although not what we originally agreed to, we don't have a problem with.
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
That'll be reflected in the next minutes of this.
Yeah, then a memo will be put into the form.
Okay.
The second item that we have tonight, we have some members of the Wilberts organization, and they're here tonight based on a discussion that we had with them a couple weeks ago at PRC. I'm really here on behalf of the staff asking for an interpretation of an issue that happened, and I think they're interested in whatever that interpretation is, because it gives them the ability to move forward from what they're trying to do, or kind of puts them in a position that they may have to do other things. So what occurred in 2010 was they came in, and there's a map behind you there. They came into the planning board and the zoning board of appeals to ask for the property to be partitioned out, because they have, obviously, they have two operations. They have the Wilberts Automotive, and they also have the Christmas tree farm. So they asked for them to be divided out so that the two businesses would be separate and distinct from one another. And of course, the planning board granted the subdivision approval, and you agreed to the non-conformance. So that was one interpretation that they had, was that because you agreed to the pre-existing non-conformance for the two properties, it's their contention that the property in general provides them the ability to utilize the entire property, not just the area that you see shaded out that was on this map back in 2010, which was the operational aspect of the property. Now, in 2012, they came in and asked for some work to be done. And you do notice that there's a parking lot to the north of their building. That was there. That was put in legally over the years. So that we consider that to be part of the pre-existing non-conformance aspect of the project, okay? They did come in 2012, and they did ask for some fencing to be installed. And this is where the contention kind of comes, I won't even say it's contention, we're just looking for an interpretation, basically, and so are they. So the question comes into play, was the fencing to be placed along the northerly property line, or was it to be placed along the northerly operational line of the project? And I think that they've got copies of the resolutions. I've given you a copy of the resolutions tonight. Our interpretation is the fact that in that one resolution in 2012...
Could you please go back to 2010?
Well, let me finish first, and we'll go back. In 2012, the wording that jumps out at me particularly is the fact that it talked about the operational boundary. Now, because of 2010, their interpretation, and I can understand what they're thinking, is that if the board granted them the ability to have a pre-existing nonconformance for the two parcels, that they would have the ability to utilize the entire parcels for their business operation without having to come back to the board for an expansion to a pre-existing nonconforming use. So that's their perception of what happened. At least I think
For 2010, is that what you're talking about?
yes.
2010.
Because of what the boards did in terms of splitting off the properties and indicating the pre-existing nonconformance for the two lots that they were using versus the two lots that would be used for the Christmas tree farm.
Can I go back? I want to make sure.
Okay, you know, I remember this. Okay, I was on the board when
I
this
think there were
happened.
3 board members that were here at
Yeah,
that time.
and my recollection is that you guys were having problems. That, number one, the fence was kind of beaten up, and it wasn't wonderful, but you were having problems with people stealing things, am I correct?
Yeah, we
Coming
had
over the
trouble,
fence, and
yes.
so that's why you wanted the 10-foot fence.
Yes.
Okay, around where you have the cars and that, because you sell parts, obviously.
Right.
So, and even the other part on kind of left-hand side of the building, because that was part of the parking lot too. I remember pulling in there. So, what you're saying is, what you want now is a fence that goes into a different part of where your fence is now?
In 2012, we came back here because we established the new south fence.
In 2010, Lot 1,
Yeah, became
And lot
lot
two.
1. Yeah.
and if you read the wording in your declaration or whatever word you use, it says that we have the right to use Lot 1, very much spelled out,
Yep,
for our business.
we agree. I agree.
That we're done.
No, it's not,
No.
that's not that simple. It's not that
Now
simple.
go to 2012.
No, we don't have to go to 2012. 2010 served 2 purposes. And it was due to the fact that you had 2 businesses operating on the same property, which they did not want to have happen for whatever reason, whether it was insurance or whatever the case was. They were basically asking to subdivide the parcels so they could identify the commercial automotive operation versus the Christmas tree operation.
Right, that's right.
It did not talk about where they were in terms of how much they could use or couldn't use. It was to break up the properties for that purpose.
And wasn't there an issue with regard to where the road ran? Because I think
That's right.
you weren't allowed to subdivide across a road.
Right, and that was the other problem. We'd come to a situation where the county planning department, or I'm sorry, the county real estate department would not allow for the old Z design that you had to have one versus the other. But I think they were, you know, and rightfully so, they were trying to break up the 2 businesses and keep them separate and distinct, and I think everybody here agrees that that should be done.
Yep.
But it did not specifically talk about, and this is where the staff and I have the problem, and I've told them, and I think the staff agrees, we don't have a problem if they want to expand an operation. It's just that we have to get some direction from you as to what the process should be to do it, and that's usually to come in for an expansion to a pre-existing
I think
operation.
that-
So in any event,
Well, absolutely.
so the issue really was, it wasn't the fact that they were able to utilize the existing property to expand their operation. It kind of defined where they were in terms of the commercial automotive operation versus the Christmas tree farm.
Right.
So it's our thought that if they want to expand the operation, and actually you did let them expand because you did give them the ability to open up that property to the south for more parking.
Yep.
And you also gave them the ability to add on to their shipping facility, their shipping docks. Not a problem. The contention that we have right now is the fact that we think that they should be...
Let me ask them a question, Mike. So, right now, you have the fence around where your cars are and where we talked about back in 2012, right? Where the 10-foot fence is.
So what brought this to the light?
Well, no, let's answer questions and then I'll ask another.
That's not gonna
We
happen.
intended to
No,
put
I
it
guess
there.
not.
We-
You know what, I'm gonna stop you. I'm gonna stop you right now. I don't wanna be rude, but we have a meeting today. This
You
is
asked a
not...
question, I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay,
answered it.
but you weren't answering it, but that's okay. We don't have an application in front of us now. Jim is asking us whether the interpretation that staff believes of our language in the resolution is what he thinks it is. I've heard from both of you, yes, and I agree. Okay?
Was anybody else here?
No, no offense to you guys, but you weren't
I
here.
wasn't.
Yeah, I was.
So what I suggest is if the applicant wants anything else done to the property, and you need to come before the board, then submit an application to the board.
So it's your thought that the operational limit is the area that they could fence?
Sure.
If they want
We're
to.
talking about fencing,
And
yes.
and if they want to expand the operation to provide fencing along
Come
the
in.
northerly property line, come in and ask for it?
Yeah.
That's all.
Can
Simple.
I answer your
Because they'd
question?
have to they'd be expanding it.
No more
Use.
questions.
They'd be expanding.
Well,
it.
yeah,
I don't want this to get more complicated than it is. And you have your answer. You've asked whether staff's interpretation is what we think it is, and the answer is yes.
All right.
So come in for
So
an
whatever they
application.
wanna
You've come
do,
in
they gotta
before and
make
you've been successful.
Because we would only give the minimum we have to anyways. To answer that question, we wouldn't have to get into whether we can expand the use or whether.
Right.
Okay.
So you will accept an application
Oh,
for?
well, certainly we'll accept an application.
So just to answer your question, and someone 12 when we came back.
We don't need the answer. I'm sorry.
Okay.
There's no application.
We're kind of for time. We got to start at 7 o'clock, so, okay.
Right, John.
Yeah, send an application in.
Don't have jurisdiction because there's no application pending. So.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Okay. So why don't we go through the agenda now, if that's the case, make sure you're comfortable with everything?
Yeah, and also when we do, if you guys would mention what new items we have on each application, that would be helpful so we can sort through them.
Do my best. Application number 1 is the request for variance for the shed at 95 Woodside Drive. I think the new thing that came in since you started reviewing material was the fact that the neighbors who would be impacted by the request have sent in a letter to you stating that they are supportive of the applicant's request. That's the new...
That's
new-
the shed and fence, right?
That's right. And I know that Joe went out to look at the site. and
Yeah,
he got some
absolutely.
comments. All right, very good. Number 2 is the proposed 1,300-foot square foot addition with a car, with a garage and the addition to the rear of the building at the 1851 Clark Road. As you note, Clark, that building is a pre-existing non-conforming building. It was probably one of the first ones, if not the first one, built on that area. It has a 28-foot setback, and I believe that they're going to 46 feet with the addition, which will be more in compliance than the 28, but doesn't still meet the
Yeah,
setback.
it's just the garage.
I got a question.
No, it's more than a garage.
Well, it's 4 foot of the garage
Yeah.
is what's
I got a question
out
on
of
this.
setback
That's
space.
right. Well, in essence, that's not true, because actually, I think a portion, well, yeah. I think
No, I
it's-
think the rest of the house
But I
is
do
pretty
have-
far enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
You'll get to
So
it.
you're there.
Go ahead, you can ask your question.
Here's my question. My recollection is that this has come up quite a bit, where you have pre-existing non-conforming use from a front setback because
Right.
it's too close to the road, but they're doing something in the rear.
Right.
Up to this point, it's been my recollection that we've always advertised that as permission to expand a non-conforming use, plus, in
Plus
this
the other
case,
things.
having this having to
Yeah.
violate the front setback. So it seems to me we only have that portion of it advertised and not the expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming use.
What number is it?
Two,
Number 2.
it says to allow an addition to a pre-existing non-conforming residence with less front setback. That seems to deal just with the front setback issue.
Well, that's
But you
really the issue, though.
But you need 2 variances. No, it's not. Even if they were putting it all in the back, you would need permission to expand the non-conforming use. That's the position.
Well, it goes back to what he was saying, though. When you look at it, it's 4 feet off. If the front portion of the building addition that's coming in is only 4 feet off, so the back of the building would be in compliance.
When Norbert got an
No, I
expansion
know
to the back,
what you're saying.
of his
Here's
property.
what I'm thinking, though.
Yeah.
We've had instances before where our notice maybe wasn't as exact, thank you, precise as it should have been, but we've taken a look at it in the context of what factors are the board members gonna consider that night on the one that was advertised, and are they similar enough to the one that wasn't, that any interested person, having seen the notice as it was, would have received adequate notice on both issues?
Yeah, and I'm sure that closer to the road would draw somebody's attention more than an addition in the back. You know,
Most
the
likely.
pre-existing non-conforming, you know what I mean, Mike?
And I mean, the one thing I think is,
Well, I
the garage
agree.
Well, all I'm
agree
saying
with
is
you,
there's two variances here.
Okay.
Is that because, are you saying that because they need a variance from the rear setback too?
Yes. If the front
Not a
setback,
rear setback,
if they
it's
were
because it's
complying with the
non-conforming.
50-foot front setback, they'd still have to come and get permission to add to the back.
with that,
Yes, we've talked about this before.
That's right,
Any
any
adjustment to a
addition needs to meet the
non-conforming.
50-foot setback.
And you don't think this notice is broad enough to cover?
No, can I say something?
No,
I know what
we're
Mike's
there.
saying.
Yeah.
Mike is saying if they just did an addition in the back, it's a change to the non-conforming, right, pre-existing,
It's expanding.
and they
even though
need,
it's-
Well, and that's how it's
and they need
advertised.
Well,
That's how it's advertised. As an expansion
No,
to a pre-existing
it says it's
non-conforming.
expanding, it's adding to it with less front setback. Those are two
But-
different issues.
But it is.
it's adding to it
Says-
with,
It doesn't say an expand, there's
and
word
addition
expansion.
to
it's not.
pre-existing non-conforming.
Yeah, it
Oh,
doesn't
it
say
does.
expanding,
Allow an
expanding the
addition.
pre-existing is one, and violating the front setback is two.
Well, the addition will not be a pre-existing non-conforming. The addition will be an addition.
The addition is expanding the non-conforming use.
It is. But you're really looking
Yeah,
at
but we're
variance.
talking about,
You're really
I
looking
think
at
what we're asking is, can we hear it tonight? And in my opinion,
yeah,
it's
but
yes.
to deal with both things.
Yeah,
And-
deal with
and
both
for-
things,
For when
but-
it comes up again, you know, then we deal with it as a, I don't, and we talked about either changing the ordinance or doing something to allow the staff administratively to go into this, because the back portion isn't what's not conforming.
It's
The front portion is,
That's
but
right.
still under the code, you.
Stuff that you're,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the staff is still comfortable having you do that, because you could get into some situations that, have to be addressed by the board instead of.
Right, I understand what you're saying. I
So,
just,
Yeah, all right.
I guess next time around.
Advertise both.
Yeah, advertise both.
Actually, it's ironic to say that, because the next time around, we have the same situation again with the application from last month, because now the guy wants to come in and ask for a variance for a garage.
So this though does mention two code provisions. So one code provision dealing with setback and the other dealing with non-conforming. So I think so it's just maybe not
Read it
as
aloud.
exacting.
When the time comes.
If you wanted, if you're talking from a notification point of view, I don't think that's gonna allow a neighbor or somebody to know what actually.
No, certainly, all the neighbors were notified, obviously, and that's
But
how
I'm
we
saying,
did
they're
it.
not gonna know what the code
Code
says.
says.
Yeah, yeah, they're gonna call us for whatever's happening.
But I think it's close enough to move forward, and we just, again, learn from this
Yeah.
next time.
Okay, for the third one, this is a situation where there's actually gonna be a development in the town of Walworth. But the only way they can get to the property in Walworth is to go through the property in Penfield off of Watson Harper Road. So in essence, there's gonna be a driveway being built on this property. They are gonna split the property into two parcels, both which will be served as residents in Walworth. The problem comes into play because they have to have an access road that goes into the other property, which encumbers the original property, which now requires them to have less than 2 acres. It's the only way they can get to the property is off of Watson Harbor Road. There is no way in Walworth to get to this property, so.
Okay, my only question on this is, did Walworth do anything about it?
Yes, Walworth, their planning board met. They are the lead agency.
Yep.
They've identified, I believe, as an unlisted action, and they've granted preliminary subdivision approval. They don't do it the way we do it. They do preliminary, then they do final at the next meeting.
Okay.
They are preparing a final resolution for that.
Okay, because if they didn't approve these lots, what are we listening to?
That's right, and you wouldn't be.
And this is coordinated review?
and they
It
didn't see
is,
already?
yeah.
Because how would we get to a 2-acre parcel, only a portion of which is in?
What happens, the county line
Right, I
becomes
see
the
it.
subdivision parcel.
There's quite a few parcels
subdivision
like
line.
that there.
And as a result, you end up with less than 2 acres on one of the lots that has the driveway coming out.
So that's
If you
considered
talk about
a
practical
lot here and a lot
difficulty and unique hardship, that's,
That's the way the number of their neighbors.
I'll let him make his case, but that's right.
Was seeker
Seeker is done.
Done, it was
Yeah.
unlisted.
It's unlisted, federal lead agency.
Yeah, because this one, you
They have
don't do
prepared,
secret,
they have
we won't
prepared
jump on it.
a preliminary approval resolution, which was passed.
Right,
They are now in the process of preparing a final resolution.
so now we can go ahead and act
You
on this
can,
today.
and I'll let the applicant
Okay,
become more involved in that process as to what's happening in there.
thank you.
Number 4, we have an applicant who's representing both the Shepherd Home and the Church of the Incarnation. The Shepherd Home has a sign on 5 Mile Line Road at its entrance. They are requesting that a sign be placed at their entrance on Whalen Road to give them additional
Well, they have
identification.
one.
The church is actually doing the same thing. The church has a freestanding sign out in the middle of its front yard on 5 Mile Line Road. They're looking for the same thing over on Whalen Road. It is kind of-
Which one? Is it the church or the Shepherd Home that has the little pole sign?
That's the church.
So that one's got it.
Those were approved over the years. That was a situation where the diocese actually required each of those churches to have those signs, so they're kind of,
You gotta put them up.
yeah.
I got it.
Well, they put them up legally. I mean, they've had permits for them over the years,
Okay.
so. The only thing that you should know is that the sign that's currently where the Shepherd Home is, there's a minor addition to that sign. They want to put in end of life care underneath it to give better identification what the purpose of the Shepherd Home is.
Is that gonna be added to the additional sign that's, to what's there now?
They're both
or
the
is that-
exact same signs, yeah, yes. Well, they're doing another sign, but it'll look like that one with that wording underneath, and that's shown in your
So it's gonna
application.
be slightly larger than what's.
A little bit.
And those are
It wouldn't be
considered, that's
noticeable.
considered one sign, even though
Yes,
they add
they'll
that,
be
'cause it's
tied together,
attached.
that's right.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, okay. The next one is the Rochester Christian School. Back in 2004, I think it was July 15th, 2004, you approved a sign that's out there today. It was a 20 square foot sign, it's kind of low. They are requesting that sign be removed and that a replacement sign of 26 square feet be placed. It'll be a little bit higher so you can see it as you're coming around. It's not very visible coming from the south on Creek Street northward. As a matter of fact, there's a tree that has to be trimmed for you to see it. I know you all looked at it. I passed this out to you. This has been kind of a thing that I've been looking at over the years, which really was never approved, and it shouldn't be there. And that should be a condition in my mind if you grant the approval that be resolved.
All flag signs.
Also on Sundays, we'll talk about this a little bit, but on Sundays they've had feather flags and other things to identify the church service area. Those aren't legal either, and if they want to come in and apply for that, they have every right to do that to you, but they haven't done that. So those would be 2 of my comments regarding that. The next one is Teresa Vigiani's coming in. She is requesting, they're going to install a Dollar Tree in the old Rite Aid building at 1851 Empire Boulevard. She is requesting 2 signs to be mounted on the, and I think I've given you, yeah, you've got pictures, on the blue area that would come down and become green, and the 2 signs would be installed on the new green tarp areas over the door. This is one that we would talk about. It's not just the fact that they're putting up 2 green signs, but what are they going to do with the rest of the building to blend it in? So you want to ask that question. Okay. I also have figures for the sign itself because it didn't show on your applications. It just showed the green panel. And the green panel we don't consider to be the sign. It's the wording on the panel that we consider to be the sign, and I've got the numbers here for you for that. They're entitled to have, based on their linear footage of their building, which is 128 feet, so they're allowed to have a total of 256 feet of wall-mounted signage on their property. And I contacted their sign person today because I didn't have the information that I needed as to what that was based on what they gave us, but he did measure that out for me. So if you take and just take the square footage of the script that's up there, it's 89.56 square feet per panel. So that kind of gets them underneath what they have to do. If you take and just box it out, it comes up to 96.25 square feet, so it's still under signage for what they...
We've never used that interpretation before.
What interpretation?
When you have a block of color with a sign on it, particularly since the Dollar Tree's colors are green, we've always used the whole area.
We don't do it internally. I mean, if there was other stuff around it where they had swirls or something, we would include that, but just the panel
Just the
itself,
color?
we don't. So,
Okay, and that's been
those are the
consistent
numbers
over
we
the
would
years?
look at. And then number 7, as we talked about the last meeting, you
By
have...
the way, I think it's still under. Is it still under?
It is, yeah, it's still on there. We'll get the figures for you. Number 7 is the applicant coming in for Chili's again, modifying their sign package, which you approved earlier this year. And they'll go through the numbers for you as to what they're asking for, what the difference in square footage is. And then finally, we have Mr. Bars, who actually is not going to be here this evening. He has a representative for the company coming. They are looking to ask for a variance. There's going to be a proposal to subdivide a portion of the property of the Nugent property, which would then allow them not to have the square footage that they need or the area that they need for open space to meet code. And I'll let them talk about what they need and what they're going to end up with, and we'll go through that.
Okay.
Then we have the table matters. I just want to give you an update on those. Mr. Hejanovic has made an application to the planning board. He will be appearing before the planning board on August 15th. So I'm going to request that you continue to table that application until after the planning board's had a chance to review it.
We have a motion on that. We have a motion to table.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, the motion second, yeah.
We don't have. Number 2 is Mr. Fantuzzo. Mr. Fantuzzo went back to the planning board after we had our meeting. The planning board did agree with you. They were fairly happy with the fact that he had reduced the square footage down to what you had seen at that meeting last time. If you remember, there was a setback on the side property, to the south property line of 5 feet from the previous, I think it was 3 feet, something of that nature. There was also a rear setback of 14.55 feet from the originally proposed 10 feet. The board is preparing a resolution of approval for August 15th. They did send you a letter supporting the application as proposed now, and are allowing you to move forward if you see fit to address the variance. As a result of what they did at the last meeting, I think we talked about this, there's no longer a need for lot coverage variance because they did bring that into compliance with the amount of reduction in area that they provided. So that particular variance is no longer necessary for us.
Okay. Any questions on the new developments?
So we tabled this one.
All right, well then on this one, I'm going to make a motion to approve. What do we have specifically?
You have side setback variance to the south property line.
Okay,
It would be a 5-foot variance.
5-foot variance.
Or, I'm sorry, I take that back. It'd be a 5-foot setback.
Right.
A 15-foot variance. You have a 14.55 setback requiring a 15.54 setback or whatever it is to the rear. You have less buffer to a residential zone. That would be from the 50-foot requirement now down to 14.55.
Okay. And the other one you said is
The
eliminated?
other one is no longer necessary.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to, as I said, I'll make a motion to approve all 3 of these variances.
I'll second.
Okay, I guess in support of it, what I would say is the overall balancing of the equities here. I think that, first of all, it's going to improve the property greatly, while some of the, it's certainly self-created, while some of the variances from a numbers perspective are substantial. I think they're not so substantial that the improvement to the property would be outweighed by that. Less buffer, it's in essence a commercial area, and the buffer in this case is actually, to me, going to work in favor of residents down that road, blocking their view perhaps of the commercial use of Empire Boulevard. So those are my comments on that.
I gotta tell you, I'm not dancing in the streets about what he's gonna put there, but he has substantially lowered it to what was there. So
But I think one of you at the last meeting talked about it as being a transitional buffer between.
Yeah,
having
between
your
That's good,
commercial and
that's good
residential.
language to assert.
So like I said, I just give him an A for effort.
Yeah. Any further comments? All right, so we have a motion to approve and a second with that discussion. All those in favor? Aye.
Okay. Number 3 is the application for the expansion to the Glendevere's for parking. That application is now scheduled to appear before the planning board on August 15th, and I ask that you continue to table that.
Motion to table.
Second.
Who's first? Was
Joe?
Joe and Andres second. Okay, so we have a motion to table and a second for the reasons stated by Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
The last one.
Burlington.
We're running tight
Paul's here.
But Paul is here. Burlington is asking for 2 signs. You'd asked that some additional information be submitted to you regarding the viability of the sign being visible from various points on the site, such as Branch Point, such as the Walmart. Paul did submit some photos. Actually, I've submitted some photos too. I don't know how close they are to each other, but I think, that's something you're gonna have to look at. The other thing they asked for was the possibility of, the viability of identifying wayfinding signs to identify not only this business, but even some of the smaller businesses in the complex, to get people to know where they are and be able to get access to them. So that's kind of where we are right now.
Okay.
I missed that, where's the,
Table
missed
4.
the picture. Table 4.
Where's Paul? You want to come up, Paul? We might as well deal with this now rather than make you wait for the whole
This is-
end of the meeting. Start the public hearings a few minutes
This
late.
is table 4. What am I missing?
So are these yours, Paul?
That's good.
Yeah, those I submitted to Jim on Friday,
Okay.
and there was a key that was the first sheet that shows where those photos were taken from.
No, that's what I got.
No, I didn't see that.
They're just mixed up.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So photo 1 was from Brant Point entering, right where you make the turn, and that's a view of 1. 2 was at the first cross street,
Talking about the one on the top of the
and
building.
then 3 was the third cross street.
All right, thanks. You guys see this?
No.
This gives you the perspective, basically coming in from Brant Point and going toward the building, Paul, is that a fair character?
Yeah, that's the most important thing for Burlington.
Okay,
and-
Paul, we determined that this is in the center of the building, not on the edge of the building.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. There's a architectural element that was created to support that secondary sign.
The last time we looked at it, and it was like,
Right here.
whoever was there wasn't sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he was in a tough
No,
spot.
right here.
Yeah. I got it.
Everything's okay, I hope, by the way.
Where's the
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Yeah. The big-
And really, Burlington wanted and really demanded to be on the north end of that building, which would have created a dead elevation.
Yeah, you guys hearing this? Because it's, no, it's okay, it's just, I asked them.
So Burlington, when they came to us, they wanted to be on the north end of the repurposed building,
Right,
and that would have created a dead elevation facing Walmart. We negotiated for them to take the center of that building, which allowed us to activate this elevation with small shops that are going to face the
Towards
Walmart.
the main shop.
And in doing so, they said, geez, they wanted the opportunity to capture all the traffic, which is the primary generator is Walmart. And we have in a condition of our lease with them, pursuing that secondary business identification sign so that they can be visible. I heard your comment relative to wayfinding, and I promise you, we've talked about it a few times. We're very close to a comprehensive sign package for wayfinding for the overall plaza. This particular tenant is going to precede us being able to talk with you about that.
good, well, that's good to hear, because things are happening, and it's nice to be able to have those signs to help find your way throughout. Okay, you guys have any further questions for Paul? All right, so there was the issue about where the sign was, you're okay with that now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, all right, then I'll make a motion to approve this. Again, given the recent redevelopment of the plaza, I think this is a good overall thing for it. The site of the store is such that you're going to have, hopefully, traffic, customers coming in from both sides. And while this is, they're big signs, they are visible, they serve a purpose. And I'm glad to hear that it wasn't, I guess, jutting out as we thought it was going to be as much after the first night. So that's my motion.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you.
Appreciate you taking care of this.
Yeah.
Really, thank you.
All right.
I assume we did secret on that last time. Or we tabled it?
Sure.
I think things are good.
We will handle it.
All right, is everybody okay? We can go right to the hearings? Okay, then we're just going to walk over to the dais and go right into the public hearings without taking a break, folks. But thank you for your patience. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Penfield Zoning Board of Appeals. Tonight's meeting will take place in two parts. First, we'll have the public hearings. We'll ask the applicants to come up to that podium there and give us name and address, and then explain to the board why the relief requested should be granted. Once the applicant is done with the presentation, board members will have some questions, most likely, and then we'll ask anyone in the audience that cares to speak about the application to do the same thing. Come on up, give us name and address. After that is done, the public hearings will be adjourned. We'll take a brief recess, and then we'll reconvene in the back of the room to deliberate on tonight's applications and take care of any unfinished business that we may have. Members of the public are welcome at both the public hearings and the deliberations, although deliberations are times reserved generally for conversation amongst board members with staff, and council. We have a medium to large size agenda tonight, but a lot of them aren't complicated, in my opinion. So we may move along. You're welcome to stay, as I said. If you can't or you choose not to, feel free to call tomorrow and find out exactly what happened on a particular application. Every month I'd like to point out, and it's on behalf of my fellow board members as well, that we think the town does a really good job of notifying neighbors that applications are going to be heard, so that the neighbors know they can come in and speak about them if they want to do that. And the town does that by sending postcards to neighbors if you live within a certain distance of an application. The town posts the agenda on the internet, posts it here at the town hall, has applicants put the signs out in front of the property, so when you're driving around you see something's up with that property, you can call a number and find out. And again, we do that so that people can come in and frankly help us do our job. We think it works well. And that being said, I'd ask everyone to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Thank you. Jim, may we have the first application, please?
Certainly. Item number 1, David Paul, 95 Woodside Drive, Penfield, New York, 14526. Request area variances from Chapter 250, Article 5.1 F1 and Article 7-1D of the Code to allow a storage shed with less side setback and a higher privacy fence than permitted at 95 Woodside Drive. The property is owned by Jacqueline Holtzman and is zoned R-1-15, SBL number 139.06-4-21, application number 17Z-0039.
Thank you.
Good evening. My request for the variance is, the main goal is to turn my two-car garage back into a working two-car garage. So I've got a lot of stuff that has to be moved out. My plan is to put a shed in the yard behind the garage. Our backyard takes a pretty good downward slope, about 20 feet off the back of the house. So instead of just putting it where it's flat, I'd like to put it where there's a yard space that's not really usable as yard. If I put it where it's flat, it would chew up a lot of flat space and cut what's left about in half. So I was hoping to get a variance to put the shed up to a foot on the side property line. In order to install a shed at that location, there's a privacy hedge that has to be removed that's about 20 feet long and 10 to 12 feet high. So that's where the request for the fence variance comes in, is to put something back up there once those hedges are removed for the shed installation.
Okay, I guess what you're asking for is two variances.
Correct.
You're asking for a 10-foot fence, and you're asking for a shed with, you know, closer to the property line, am I
Right.
correct?
Yep.
All right, let's go with you have 10-foot bushes there. It's a natural barrier, all right? What is the reason that you're taking a natural barrier out in order to put a shed? You're going to put the shed where the bushes are? You go ahead, explain.
The shed actually would be behind where the bushes are now, but the
Okay.
bushes are a physical impediment to installing the shed. I'm going to have it pre-built.
Okay, so in other words, it's not just parts coming in.
Right.
You just explained it. You have a
Correct.
pre-built shed
Yep.
that's coming in. Okay.
Yep.
So let's talk about the shed.
Okay.
So we deal in direct numbers.
Okay.
So exactly how far off the property line do you want to put this shed?
I'd like to have a 1-foot setback instead of 10.
So that's a 9-foot variance.
Correct.
And so the shed is not going against the fence, it's going past the fence. Am I
Yes.
correct? So in other words, you're going to have a fence, then you have the shed past the fence.
That's correct.
How far past the fence are you going to put it?
Probably within a couple of feet.
Okay. Now, did you think of this shed when you, what's the shed going to be made of?
It'll be wood construction.
Wood construction?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, wood, vinyl sided with a shingle roof.
Okay, so the vinyl siding will stop it from having to be painted?
I believe so. Hope so.
Okay, well, I mean, the only reason I ask that is you want a foot off the line.
Right.
In the reason we have 10-foot variances is if you go try and get in back of that shed, you are on the neighbor's property.
Sure.
So we try and stop neighbors from kind of, I hate to use the word trespassing, but going on another person's property in order to fix your shed. But you're saying the vinyl siding will make it where it should never have to go back there?
Should be, yeah.
Okay, is there going to be any electric in the shed?
I'm not planning, no.
Okay, so there's no lighting, there's no electrical out there that would shine on your neighbor's property?
No, nothing that would be installed, no.
Okay, so now you want a 10-foot fence,
Correct.
all right? How long? How many feet are the fence? How
20
long is the
20
fence?
feet
there?
long.
How much?
20 feet long?
20 feet long?
Yep, that's the length of the hedge that's there right now.
Okay, so it's approximately where the hedges are now?
Yes.
Okay. But when you take the hedges out, you get the shed back, put the shed in, then you'll erect the fence?
Yes.
Okay. What material is the fence going to be made out of?
It would be wood. There are some other fences around our yard that I would match that's there, that shadow box style. So it'd be 4x4, 4x6 posts with, I think they're like 1x6 fence boards.
Okay, here we go again. You're going to have to paint those boards at some time?
Yep.
Okay? You think
You said
got-
that very enthusiastic.
Yeah, all right. But I mean, here we
better
go
than
again.
trimming
You're
hedges.
going to put this, where are you going to put the fence?
I'm not sure exactly relative to the line, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
The line is just behind the fence, so I'd probably line it up with the back line of the shed. So,
Okay, so-
up to a foot.
So now we're into that situation where if in the future, 5 years from now, the fence is bad, you have to get on the neighbor's property in order to do it. Am I
Okay.
correct?
Yeah, I guess I would
Okay.
say.
Well, that's why I asked you what kind of fence, because if it's wooden, you're going to have to paint it. If it's a vinyl, you know, you may not have to. And by the way, if you buy a wooden fence with one side that's good, one side that's not so good, decorative, you put the good side to the neighbor, not to you, okay? And the neighbors are okay with this?
Yes, they've seen the whole plan. We've laid it all out for them, and they're happy with
And
it.
there's a letter that you submitted for them. We're talking about 91 Woodside Drive
Yeah.
is where they live at.
That's our neighbors to the south.
Okay, I'll put that in the file, and go ahead, Mike, I'm sure you got a question.
Yeah, you got a fairly big backyard, even with the grade. Explain to me why you can't put a shed behind the garage immediately behind where the bushes are.
So the major portion of our yard, starting from about 20 feet off the back of the house, is all downward. It's steep enough that you couldn't put a chair on it, for example.
I realize that.
So the shed being right behind the garage would cut the rest of that usable space in half, leaving about I don't know, maybe 30 feet that's behind the house, and then 10 or 15 feet that's towards the property side.
Still
20
seems to me,
feet.
how much flat square footage do you have behind there? It's pretty considerable. It's got to go at least 20, 30 feet before it starts to go down. From what I saw, the entire length of where the bushes are is relatively flat.
Yeah. Well, those bushes are about 20 feet long, and they start only within a couple of feet of the back line of the
So
house.
again, why can't you just fit that shed behind the garage in that area, 10 feet off the property line? It's in compliance, you keep your bushes, you got a natural buffer there that stays there, and we go home.
I thought about that, and the only reason I want to do that is to just keep usable yard space.
But, you know, that argument could be made by anybody,
Sure.
to put a 10-foot structure 1 foot off the property line. Everybody's going to gain space that way. What is
Okay.
unique in your situation that means you can't do that?
I don't know if I have anything unique, other than the slope of the yard gives us what I consider just a smaller section of usable yard.
What do you have to the left of the garage? There's a structure that's against the wall on the side?
Those are, there's a couple of plastic shed, small vertical storage units,
Are those coming out if you,
probably, or I might put them against the wall of the new shed. I'm not sure.
so that's another cabinet.
Yeah.
What about on the right side of the backyard? What's that wooden structure?
That's an open face platform. I just used to throw lawn furniture in over the winter.
So you got sort of an open face storage facility
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And you're going to keep that there as well as this good-sized shed?
I was hoping to, yeah.
Okay, so.
All right, Marie?
Thanks for coming.
Sure.
When I went to visit your property, you and I were talking about the 10-foot-high fence.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit more about why you need 10 feet? I was noticing that there aren't that many windows on the side
Sure.
of the property that faces you,
Yeah,
your
so
neighbor's side.
that fence, or the hedge, right now basically is a visual barrier between basically our deck and the neighbor's deck. Their house is actually quite a bit higher than ours. Just the slope of the road makes their house start 5 feet higher than us.
Okay.
Their deck is actually even quite a bit higher than that, beyond that 5 feet.
Okay.
So from our deck, I put a measuring tape up there, and the 10-foot mark on that is about kind of a visual line up to, I think it was the top of their door frame on their screen porch.
So you want privacy from deck to deck in the fair weather months?
Sure, yep.
Okay, because there's really no windows on their side of the property, really, right?
Right, it's
Yeah.
not from house to house.
Okay.
It's yard to yard. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone in the audience care to speak about this? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Item number 2, Jeremy Harris, 1851 Clark Road, Rochester, New York, 14625, requests an area variance from Chapter 250, Article 5.1 F1 and Article 7-13C of the Code to allow an addition to a pre-existing non-conforming structure with less front setback than permitted at 1851 Clark Road. Property is owned by Jeremy Harris and is zoned R120, SBL number 123.12-1-27, application number 17Z0043. Mr. Harris? Please come up, give your name and address, and let the board know what you want to do.
Jeremy Harris, 1851 Clark Road. I'm requesting a variance to the, as you said, the non-conforming pre-existing property. We're going to put a large addition off the back of the house, along with a 2-car garage. And for aesthetic reasons and geometry, to allow the house to appear period correct. The house was built in 1890. The garage is going to encroach the setback by about 4 feet. The front of our house sits 28 feet from the existing setback rule now. It only sits 28 feet from, so the completed addition with garage, the garage will be 46 feet from the setback.
Can you talk about when you designed the addition, what made you place the garage where it's at, and why not farther to, even behind, even farther?
Yeah, I could speak on it as well. I also provided a letter that Todd Marotta wrote up. He was the architect. So to allow the house to have a porch sitting there and for it to aesthetically appear correct, the garage needed to have that difference in alignment instead of it being straight across. And then also the geometry with the header, and as things all come together for the roof line and everything to line up and tie in, that's the reason it was designed that way.
Okay, so it'd be safe to say that if the garage sat too far back, you would, either need a much larger addition off the back to be able to attach to it correctly, or it really wouldn't work that way.
Correct.
So that's why it needs to sit a little bit closer to the road so it ties in with the porch and the addition with the existing house.
Correct, yes.
Okay. And from what I could tell, it looks like you had about 4 feet of the garage is all that's going to be within that setback for that variance that's
correct.
required. And how wide is the garage, do you know?
24.
24 feet wide. And the side variance, you don't need one because the existing house is already there, so you stayed within the variance on the side, so that was part of the design criteria that allowed you to only have that one variance you needed.
That's correct.
Okay. That's all I have.
Anything else from the board?
Just one.
Okay.
What are you going to do with the siding on the house, the new addition and the garage? Are you going to re-side it all and it's all going to be the same color?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I wanted a quick question.
Sure.
The new addition portion of the garage
Yes.
is going to be about 12 feet forward of where the garage is now?
The existing garage?
No, 4
Yeah. How much closer is it going to be than the existing garage?
18. It's 58. 8. It's, yes, about 12 feet.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yep.
One question, are you making any modifications to your driveway to accommodate the garage addition as it lays out?
Not to the front of the driveway, no.
I guess going along with that question, would there be any difficulties with pulling in or out when you have a garage that's moved closer to the road?
No.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody in the audience care to speak about this? All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Item number 3, Walter and Jennifer Strasburg, 274 Pert Avenue, Rochester, New York, 14622, request an area variance from Chapter 250, Article 5.1 F1 of the Code to allow subdivision of property with less lot area than permitted at 2080 Watson Halbert Road. The property is owned by Michael S. Quagliata Jr. and is zoned RE2, SBL number 141.02-1-11, application number 17Z-0042.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Walter Strasburg. Currently reside at 274 Pert Avenue in Arundecoit with my wife Jennifer. We are proposing or requesting an area variance for a property that is proposed to be subdivided. The property is currently owned by Michael and Monica Quagliata, my in-laws. The purpose of the subdivision is to create 2 approximately equal lots for use by ourselves as Lot 2, and in the future, for their son, Michael, and his family. The property currently is just under 16 acres, just under 4 of which are in Penfield, which is where we come to the point where we cannot equally divide 2 lots and have a compliant parcel in both areas. So the proposal is to create a 2.03 acre parcel in the Penfield portion of Lot 1 and a 1.65 acre parcel for ours in Area 2. As you can see, the construction of the home, where the Penfield-Walworth line occurs, the home will be constructed in the Walworth portion of the property on the remainder of the 8 acres in that area. So there will be nothing other than the driveway constructed through the Penfield portion of the property. We are served from Watson Hulbert Road with a 30 by 630 foot driveway approximately that will be a shared drive for ourselves and property one as well. The subdivision can in no way obviously be done in such that both parcels will be compliant. Yet we feel the contingency of the Walworth parcel lends it to a minor approval due to the fact that we are in a nearly 8-acre parcel when you look at the Lot 2 as a whole. We don't believe that anything will be affected outside of our parcel in any which way. All the construction is slated to occur within our boundaries and have marginal to no impact on any of the adjacent neighbors. And although this is a self-inflicted variance, we do feel it is for the benefit, so we can bring 2 families to the area rather than just one. So we hope you'll take that into consideration.
Go ahead.
Thanks for the presentation. Now you actually have to go to a couple of different boards too, right? Part of this. Can you let us know where you are in that process?
So our first meeting was at the the Walworth Planning Board, where the subdivision and site approval was granted preliminarily based on a few conditions, which we are addressing prior to the final approvals. Last week, we're also at the Penfield Planning Board, where we were granted subdivision approval there, also based on some of the conditional adjustments that need to be made, again, all of which we are preparing to comment back on and provide to the town at their request. So
you're really on your way with this process, it sounds like.
That's what we're hoping.
And it's my understanding, I did watch the planning board meeting, so it sounds like you have to have this road because of emergency vehicle access and things like that. This is the only way it can be done.
The driveway is being created such that it acts as a fire access road for a subdivision. The current design of the driveway will only serve a single home, so it's being created slightly lower requirements than the full fire access road would require, but in the future we will have, as part of the access agreement, conditions such that the drive will be upgraded in the future if a second parcel, prior to a second parcel being developed in Lot 1. So yes, the road, it will not be, I don't believe it'll be a road itself. It will not have a name. We will have 2 separate addresses back here, but I do not believe it will technically be a road. It's just a drive.
It's a long driveway to plow. Is there another access point?
No, there's not.
Okay, this is the only access.
This is the single point at Watson Hulbert that the property can be accessed from. There's neighbors along 441 in this area and Watson Hulbert from here, so there is no additional opportunity for a second driveway to enter the property.
Okay. You answered my other questions in your presentation, so thank you. I don't have any more.
Just to clarify for the record, the 2 lots you're talking about, the smaller lots, are actually caused by political subdivision, not, you have 2 lots there, 1 and 2. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lots, for the subdivision, lots 1 and 2 are being proposed. They are actually technically 4 lots because this is the Penfield-Walworth town-county line. So 2 parcels will be in Penfield, 2 parcels will be in Walworth. We will own this continuous parcel as one.
It's a subdivision. It's a subdivision lot.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, show me, I think I know because I see the way you have it laid out, but, okay, in the future, say you sell lot number 1.
Yes.
Okay? Show me where the driveway to lot number 1 breaks off that first driveway, right there. That
right here?
little, yep,
Yes.
and goes up
So
along the top.
So in addition to the 30-foot shared, and what will be here is actually the required fire truck turnaround, part of the drive for that.
Right.
So that T-section here will start the drive to parcel 1. So that parcel 1 has a 30-foot width across the, I'll say the west side of our parcel. So this 30-foot section through here is part of parcel 1.
Okay, so what you were saying would be upgraded is technically there's 2 parts of a driveway there. You're only going to put the first part in that goes to lot number 2. When you sell lot number 1, you're going to do the additional driveway lower? Or is that going to be like a 2-lane already?
No, it'll be a single lane, 16 foot in width.
Okay.
From Watson Hulbert Road to the point where the 2 parcels divide
But
here.
it's actually on 2 partials. That 16 foot is belonging to 2 partials?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
the driveway will be essentially divided down the middle into 2 15-foot sections. The drive will be placed not exactly down the middle, but in its entirety, the driveway will be deemed as a shared utility and access portion of the lot.
Okay, yeah, I got it.
In the future, the 4-foot additional to bring it to a 20-foot, to bring it to a compliant fire access road, will only be added from Watson Hulbert to the point where the 2 divide, and then it'll be just private drives back to the 2 homes.
Okay, I got it. Okay, thank you.
Anything else from the board? Anyone in the audience care to speak about this? Okay, Jim, did you say we have to table this because of the final approval?
I don't believe we do. I think the lead agency is the Walworth Planning Board.
Yes.
The lead agency's already identified it as an unlisted action.
Correct.
Seeker.
And given preliminary approval.
So
Okay.
the process, and the
So
planning board
that's changed since the memo, all right.
The planning board's granted preliminary and final approval, I believe, subject to conditions.
Yes.
So.
Good, okay. I was gonna try to get that out of the way, but you're gonna have to wait now. Okay.
All set?
Number 4.
Item number 4, Tim Murphy on behalf of the Shepherd Home, Inc. and the Church of the Incarnation at 1957 and 1959 5 Mile Line Road, Penfield, New York, 14526. Request a special permit under under Chapter 250, Article 10-12C and Article 10-12D of the Code to allow modifications to an existing freestanding sign and additional freestanding signage in 1957 and 1959 5 Mile Line Road. Property is owned by the Episcopal Church of the Incarnation and is zoned R120. SBL number 124.14-1-1.1. Application number 17Z-0038. You're on.
Great. Good evening. Tim Murphy, 48 Corral Drive. I'm here on behalf of Shepherd Home. I serve on the board of directors. I'm also the chairman of the facilities committee. I've been working very closely with Dan Costanza and the vestry at the Episcopal Church of the Incarnation, which is on the corner of 5 Mile Line Road in Wayland. The Shepherd Home, if you don't know, is a comfort care home, AKA a hospice. It's a great gift to the community. And one of the things that we struggle with, like a lot of nonprofits, is both awareness and then, support from the community. So we actually have some benefactors that want to help us. So we have a development committee, and one of the things we came up with is we'd like to enhance our signage. So currently we have one sign on 5 Mile Line Road, and again, we're very familiar with the ordinance. Again, thanks to Jim, he's worked with us very closely. One sign to one property. Well, we had a variance for that because the church had one, and we have one. But we'd like to add 2 more signs to Wayland Road. We'd like to replace the one on 5 Mile Line Road with one very similar, within the 20 square feet. We'd like to have a rider panel on there that says volunteers welcome, as well as end-of-life care. Because we think that, again, in the community, unless you've had a personal experience, you're not familiar with what a comfort care home is. Again, it's a great gift. It's very unique to the Rochester area. But again, like a lot of nonprofits, we struggle. And we think, again, some recognition and awareness by adding the signs on Wayland Road for both ourselves and the Church of the Incarnation. Dan Costanza's here tonight representing the church. They've been great friends in this whole effort. We've gone through all of the paperwork cycle. We've submitted, pictures and the setbacks and the renderings. So I'm here to ask for, a variance for those 2 additional signs on Wayland Road.
Okay. Can you talk about the sign on Wayland Road? Will it be exactly the same as what's going to be on 5 Mile Line Road?
Great question. So not exactly. We had a lot of internal discussion. We want to be true to some brand, consistent branding that we're doing. So and if you look at the sign that's out there now, it was put in 2007, I believe. It's somewhat faded, especially on the south side where the UV gets at it. So we'd like to take that down, put one very similar up, purple and gold, the gold leaf, add those rider panels, maybe change the color purple to be a little deeper for contrast. It will also use the Quigley font, which again is what we use throughout all our communications now, again trying to be consistent. So it'll be very similar. So we're going to replace the one on 5 Mile Line Road and then add the second one, which will match it on Whalen Road. But good question.
Would you do me a favor and put that up on the board so the people at home
Sure.
can see it?
Actually, you might have one.
Unless you have one, and you can put it up there.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought you. Yes. Right here?
Yeah.
Perfect, thank
So
you.
the camera can zoom in on it.
And so the top one, I think, was, no, the top one was the existing, right? Is that what that
Yep,
was?
yep. Yeah, I should have crossed this out. This is the existing with what we proposed the rider panel underneath. Again, we're going to remove this boundary actual and change up the font to be Quigley, which is down below here. But again, the message is end-of-life care and volunteers welcome.
Got it. And then illumination, you're going to have these signs lit?
In the short term, no. I mean, there's a real challenge. We've talked about it. Kind of was a little bit vague in the submission because we don't have a solution. We looked at maybe some solar LEDs and maybe running a circuit from the church. None of that is imminent. We're very sensitive that the neighbors might have some issues with lighting. Currently, the one on 5 Mile Line Road, there was work done to reverse actually the overhead street light. But the problem there is the trees have grown so tall, it's very diffused, and the sign is faded. But we don't have a solution, but we would like to consider one, maybe some kind of uplighting or downlighting in the future.
Okay.
But if you're looking for specific details, I don't have that.
Okay. And I wasn't clear, are these signs, do they require a setback variance for where they're proposed, the proposed one? It does not,
No,
right?
we don't grant variances for signs, as we've talked before. We grant special permits, which allow them to come and go as the board sees fit.
Right, but now is there a setback variance on the one for Whalen? Does it need to?
No, well, yes, they will be, and Tim's identified that in his application, they will be 4
30?
feet.
I have it here.
Yep.
So if you look at, the picture that I had and measured it all off, I believe actually according to ordinance, and isn't 35 feet is the setback for
Well, the setback is 10 feet from the property line. And I'm sorry, 20 feet from the property
road's
line.
front, yeah.
And I think that they've gotten relief for the other signs that were on the property, the
Yes,
Shepherd
there
Home
was 2
sign.
variances back in 2007, one for the setback.
And the church also has 2 older signs that they were required to put up as part of their requirements for the diocese. They're smaller signs that are freestanding, and Tim did show that on his application. And I think that you're trying to match that or be a little bit behind those signs as well.
Setback from them, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the one on Whalen would sit back farther from the road on that one.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now the sign for the church, the additional one on Whalen, we don't know what that is, or is that part of this application tonight, or is it not going to be?
Yes, it is part of it, and again, Dan? I do have a
Yeah,
picture.
put that up.
Yep. So it's mostly the same answer in that we are looking for them to also put a second sign in to match the one on 5 Mile Line Road. I'm sorry, I'm fumbling for the picture.
While you're fumbling, I think, Dan, you had that sign just recently repainted. It was just put up last week, I think? Yes, we just painted it. That's brand new in terms of its look.
Got it here. Yep. So this is the existing sign, and again, you'll note that the signs for the church and for the Shepherd Home are in keeping with each other. They're different colors, but the fluted columns and the design are consistent. They're just different colors.
And the church's sign will be identical to what's out front on the 5 Mile Line side?
That's the plan.
And same dimensions or smaller?
Identical to what Shepherd Home.
Okay.
Yeah, they want you to.
They're not picking you up on the mic.
They can hear you downstairs.
And while he's getting up there, I just want the board to know that Dan did appear before the most recent Historic Preservation Board and reviewed the plans with that board. The board did support the design of both signs, so.
Thanks.
So the proposal for the size of the sign on Wayland Road for the church is the same size as the Shepherd Home proposal for their sign on Wayland Road, which is smaller than the sign we have on 5 Mile Line Road. The sign on 5 Mile Line Road is quite a bit away from the road and is larger than the proposal here.
Sure. And the placement of that sign, I don't think the application really specified where the church's sign was going to go.
So there's a drive that comes out onto Wayland, right? So the two signs would flank the driveway.
Each side of the driveway, yep,
That's right.
Yep. So I know where the...
It's in the map, yeah.
Okay, so I know where the one for the...
Should be shown there on either side. Setback's the same.
Okay, yep, so the future, okay, so your church sign was not shown in your application, that's what I was asking, okay, good. So it's going to be in line with them together, okay. And that sign will be illuminated or not?
There's no plan to illuminate that sign.
Okay.
Our sign on 5 Mile Line Road is illuminated.
Okay. And those, you have 2 pole-mounted signs.
Yes.
You have one at each driveway.
That's right.
Can those come down if we grant additional signage for the site?
We have plans to change the signs because they need repair.
Okay.
But we have not discussed taking those signs down.
Okay. Because that's one of the things that we look at here is now we've got one parcel where you start looking, okay, what makes it unique? Well, you've got multiple properties or multiple operations going on the one site, but yet we still have now 4 signs that we're granting. And then we look at other situations where you also have the properties like this, which are usually commercial based, where all of a sudden now they say, oh, well, we've granted additional signage here with, and basically we have 6 signs is what we'll have total if we keep those pole mounted signs. And so I'm starting to wonder, do we need all of those?
Those pole-mounted signs are very small, right? They're high in the air and they're small in size. The ones we're speaking of. The Episcopal Church welcomes you? Yes. The diocese, I'm not sure there's a requirement, but they certainly encourage that sign as a marker of an Episcopal church.
Okay.
So I don't know what the requirements are for the.
Is it required at the roadside?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm just wondering. I don't know if that would solve the problem of if it's at the road, it's we see it more. But if it's at the entrance of walking into the church, I don't know if that would still be considered a wayfinding sign or if that's more of a welcome sign, or I don't know how the town would look at that for code wise.
We did several years ago when the first sign came in, the Historic Preservation Board looked at that as an option of possibly removing those signs, and we did receive a letter from the bishop of the diocese indicating that every Episcopal church has those signs in place, and was kind of adamant about keeping them intact.
Everyone that I'm aware of does.
Okay.
So again, I don't know the rule, but that's certainly the practice.
Okay. No, but it's definitely a circumstance that there is then. Okay. I think that's all I have.
Okay, can I ask you, you're asking for another sign, and yet 2 teeny-weeny signs that are there, technically you got a sign there. I know, it's the church's sign or whatever you want to say, but it's still a sign. So now you're asking for 2 signs on the same road, and I'm not sure if you're not willing to adjust that sign, I'm not sure, in my opinion, you need the big sign.
Joe, I got a more basic question.
Yeah, go ahead.
How long has the church been operating at that location?
Since the 60s.
Okay. Why do you need a second sign?
Well, so with every nonprofit, we need all the advertisement we can get. Things are.
Why do you need it? Why do you want it?
Well, I would suggest if you're going down Wayland Road and you look to your right, you don't know that there's a church there.
You don't? There's an Episcopal sign there.
Yeah.
Plus, you can see that there's a church there. Plus, the church has been in existence for 50 years.
Okay, so people that have been here a long time would know there's a church there. I'm not sure the Episcopal sign that's up, I'll say 12 feet, 15 feet, and of small size is going to catch your eye and tell you there's a church there. If you don't see that sign and you look to your right, their trees obscure the church. You can't see the church from the road.
Okay, then it goes back to my question. So you want this big Episcopal sign on that road, right? The one you have up on the board. but you're not willing to take the little one down? You're just telling me it's not worth anything to see.
Well, I think if that's the condition for putting a larger sign on Wayland Road, then I think the church needs to consider it.
Yeah, see, again, you got to realize that we're not just dealing with you and the church wants.
I understand.
We're dealing with everybody in town and what they want. Now,
I understand.
I understand the church is a little more above everything that comes, but they have to be a little liberal too. I mean, I don't know why. Maybe they wanted that sign originally to, that's what all Episcopal churches have, no problem. But now that we grant this bigger sign, yeah, give me a good reason why that sign should stay. I mean, other than the church wants it, I guess is my opinion. Is
So
there?
We're talking about the sign on Wayland Road.
The pole sign.
The post.
The little pole sign.
You may not be in position tonight to answer that question.
I'm not sure I am.
That's fine. We'll, if the board feels they need an answer to that question when we deliberate, then I'm sure we'll give you an opportunity to get an answer to that from, from the church itself.
Yeah,
or your
I can
council.
represent the church, but I can't answer for the church.
Sure, understood, understood.
Is the board comfortable with the other little sign that's been on 5 Mile Line Road now for?
Well,
Not really.
Not, I mean, I
Not really.
Well, it's been there, and the board did
Well-
approve the other sign on 5 Mile Line Road with that in place.
We're going from 4 to 6. It may have
No, I
something
understand,
to do-
and I'm only talking about 5 Mile Line Road right now. I'm not talking about
no,
Wayland.
if they want to keep the 5 Mile Line Road one, fine. But
It's already been approved.
again, they're asking for another
No, I
sign
understand.
to identify the church.
I'm just trying to
Take that one
rationalize
away.
the fact that the board did grant that previous approval on 5 Mile Line only. And I just want to make sure that that kind of is staying where it is, or if the board has a concern for it.
Well, me personally, I mean, the way I looked, and I always look at the quantity of signs.
Right.
And if we're going up to 6 for one parcel, what's to say 6 for another parcel that has a business that might have.
That's right.
That's on a corner, and all of a sudden they want 6 signs, and just because they have a freestanding behind them too, and all of a sudden now we start looking at, where do we give and take? And in a sense, to me, we're saying we're going to approve 6 signs here. We're setting a precedent for why do we need 6 signs here when it's already identified at the driveway with the pole sign that that is the church. And now we're going to put another identification sign sitting just down the street from it, just a little bit down, saying this is the church again. And I think that's where, at least myself, where I struggle. Do we need the pole mounted signs at the driveways if we have the signs out front that are larger?
I'd like to direct my question to the Shepherd House, too. The
Absolutely.
question that I had, what's the need for the second sign on Wayland?
So if you're familiar with Shepherd Home and the parcel, there's 3 organizations on the one property. There's Heritage Christian Home, which really isn't in the conversation because they're not looking to build awareness. There's Shepherd Home, which is in the southwest quadrant. You physically cannot see the house from Wayland Road, so you really don't know that it's there. So again, we would like to direct people. We'd say that driveway gets used most frequently, but most people miss it, and they'll come around to 5 Mile Line Road. Also, again, just trying to identify who we are, being different than the church. Again, that additional messaging is important to us.
And actually, I mean, I hate to say this, but your home has different customers, we'll put it that way, that change rather than the church, the people come back Sunday after Sunday. You have people that come there and then leave there. I'll put it that way.
Maybe a one-time visit, correct.
Yeah.
And it looks like a home rather than something other than a home. So again, we're trying to direct people there. We've had enough feedback that, hey, we love you, we still use Google Maps and we still can't find you because we're tucked so far back in there. But I'd also like to address what Andrea said, if I could, for a second. Again, 6 signs, but remember, you've got 2 organizations that you're talking about tonight, not one. And we are on a corner as well, which I think, again, just to highlight the uniqueness of it, it's not one street that we're facing, we're on both sides. And again, I'll contend, after talking to a lot of people and observing, that most people use the Wayland Road entry, and that's not signed for us. And we'd like to be able to direct people in there.
And a lot of times,
Go ahead, Mike.
Just a question, why don't you have a sign that identifies the house as the Shepherd House?
Could you be clear?
In the front of it? On
We
it?
do. We have one, if you're familiar with In the
I've never
front, in the
noticed it. I'm familiar
landscaping.
with the house, but I've never.
We'd love to give you a tour and really give you a little advertisement, because it,
Just for a temporary tour.
yeah, you don't want to visit, right, temporary visit, but we do. But honestly, we do, but there's no line of sight that, until you get, I'd say within, 50 yards through the parking lot, can you really say, hey, that's Shepherd Home by virtue of eyeballing that sign right out front?
And a directional sign wouldn't work rather than a full-blown sign?
A directional sign?
Yeah, a sign that says Shepherd House this way.
With like an arrow or something?
Yeah.
We didn't really consider that, sir. I mean, it's a good thought, but I think once you get in the parking lot, which again is set back from the road, I mean, there's enough driveway with the arborvitae that there's screening there, you won't know that Shepherd Home's there.
Okay, thank you.
My last question, Dan, I swear.
For the night?
Well, for the next 10 minutes. All of those signs, are they two-sided signs? So
Yes,
in
sir.
other words, you can see them from both sides. That
Yes, sir.
question wasn't asked, so.
Good question, yes.
Two-sided signs.
Yes.
One second, because you had one.
Yeah. Oftentimes, I mean, you were talking about there's 3 entities on this parcel. Most of the time, when you have a site that has multiple entities, you'll have a directory sign at the front. They'll have a shared signage. You'll have two basically, or 3, and you list them all on one sign to help cut down clutter. Because when you look at, like, if you go up to any business plaza, we would never have 6, 7 signs out front of the parcel going down the road to identify all the different businesses inside. And did you consider something like that?
Good question. Did we strongly consider it? No. Did it come up in conversation? Absolutely. The prevailing thought from us was that would kind of diminish. It would look more like businesses. I mean, we're talking about a church and a hospice, and, if you included Heritage Christian, again, different organizations that I think want an identity that a separate sign would give. But good question.
I'm not sure you know the answer to this question, but are there plans for Heritage to want additional signage?
As far as we know, Marie, no. That they try to keep a very low profile in the community is everything that we've heard. Now, I don't want to speak for them, but that's what, I mean, I'm not aware of any other Heritage Christian home in our community that is signed.
I just wanted to make sure we were all thinking ahead, so, okay, thank you.
Good question.
All right. Anything else from the board?
If I could just make one more comment?
Sure, of course.
If the sign on Wayland, that the existing Episcopal sign, Episcopal Church welcomes you, is a concern along with the new sign, if we put it down the drive off of Wayland Road, so as you're traveling down the driveway towards the church, how far down that driveway is sufficient to be off the road? I think that would be important for the church to know. Do you understand my question?
Yeah. In other words, you want the sign out there, you turn in, and then somewhere down the road,
you'll see the sign that says the Episcopal Church welcomes you.
But in a different location.
Right. And perhaps then serving a different purpose, if it's in off of the road. Well, so does the pole sign, the small pole sign, serve a different purpose than the sign that you're proposing on Wayland?
Well, so I understand your point that it would be redundant. Right now, it's not redundant on Wayland Road because it's the only signage we have, right?
Understood.
So if we put a sign there that's larger, that lets everyone know that the Church of the Incarnation is on that site, in order to keep the diocese happy, if we move the sign down the driveway and put it there, so the question is, how far do we need to move it? Again,
Well, I think the answer, and it may not be as specific as you want, but from what I'm hearing from my fellow board members, the farther in, the better. But I tell you the truth, I kind of looked at those pole signs as almost like a flag. And that's why I asked you the question about the purpose. Signs, as we've heard a lot tonight, we've heard many times before, they can serve a lot of different purposes. You've mentioned some. Directional. Advertisement, so to speak, increasing membership. That one I looked at differently. I'm certainly learning other perspectives here, but to me that was almost more of a symbol. For instance, if there were a cross out there, I guess And I almost, if I had the definition of sign in front of me, I guess I'd look at it in that
I agree with you. It's an icon, right?
Well-
So it's an icon, and when you see it, I recognize that's an Episcopal church right
Yeah.
off, because I'm familiar with it, right?
I have to say, I agree with you, Dan. That's how I interpret that sign. I don't look at it as a sign. I look at it as almost like a, you know, you see like the safe place type
Yeah.
things. It's a symbol.
But it does, I mean, to say it is a sign is not unreasonable. Yeah.
Well, the way I
And
look
there
at
are
it-
6 of them.
It is a sign.
There would be 6 of
It's a
them.
shield, but
Well, because I look at,
Yeah.
if it's a symbol or a logo, then it'd be the same as a business having a second sign just for a logo saying, sorry, it's just a flag, it's not really a sign.
I understand. I understand.
Thank you.
Okay, well, anybody in the audience care to speak about this? All right, thanks, gentlemen.
So just one thing in closing, please.
Sure.
First of all, thanks for the consideration. I'm glad to answer any other questions. And just to kind of ask for the sale here, I mean, we're very lucky in that we have benefactors that are willing to put up money. They'd like to do something very tangible for us. So we sat down as a group and said, what is the problems we're looking to solve? And one of the big ones is to develop awareness for who we are and what we do. And the fact that there are people waiting to sign a check to give us these 2 signs, you know, make us passionate about doing this, because we really think it'll make a difference. They'll start asking a question saying, end-of-life care, what does that mean? You know, and maybe they'll associate us with a hospice, and then I'll just go back to say, it's a gift for the community, and it'd be a great way to support it. So, thanks, folks.
Do you guys, one more last, do you need time to go back and find out about those pole signs to see the significance? Is that something you need? Like would you rather us table rather than deny, or how would you?
We're going to have to table it.
Would you prefer that?
Yeah, come back up here for a second, Dan, if you would. I'd like you to, so what Andres is saying is if this board says we'll approve your request for the church's second sign on Wayland, only if you agree to remove those pole signs. That's what I sort of was asking you before. Are you comfortable saying that wouldn't be acceptable to us, or it would be? And if you need time to get that answer, that's fine.
So you're talking about both pole signs, the one on 5 Mile Line Road and the one on Wayland?
In essence, how important is it to the church to have those pole signs? Or if one's more than the other, give us that answer as well.
Yeah, I couldn't answer that.
No, I understand. So we'll probably table it to give you the opportunity to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and by the way, we'll treat them as separate, so you'll probably get an answer tonight.
Well, we're concerned with 6 signs, so
Yeah.
keep that. Well, so let me ask you, you're coming here as one applicant.
Yep.
Is there a landlord-tenant relationship here? There must be, right?
I
in
don't
some
know
sense?
about that, but the discussion we had at the church
Yeah.
was that exactly this problem, this last point that we just made.
Mm-hmm.
If you approve the Shepherd Road sign, the Shepherd Home sign on Wayland Road,
Right.
and then sometime later, the church comes and says, we'd like a sign there as well. The answer is more than likely no, because there's already a sign there, right? And we're adding yet another sign. So the church board was, I wouldn't say adamant, but they felt very comfortable about coming to you about both signs, so that it wouldn't be a Shepherd Road sign and a Shepherd House sign.
I think it would be easier to get approval if you came all one fell swoop.
That's right. If we
Yeah.
came sequentially, it probably was a different conversation.
Yeah.
Well, I don't understand why. I mean, you're a separate entity than they are. I mean, why can't I separate this and vote yes or no for his sign and yes or no for your sign?
Because maybe 5...
Or table your sign and vote on his sign.
Because
Why can't I
maybe
do
5
that?
signs is okay, but 6 signs is not. We've been counting signs, right? So when do you cross the threshold from 5 is okay, but 6 is not?
Well,
When
no,
you establish need.
we're talking them 2, you 4.
Well, Joe, we have the authority to do it.
Okay.
So
No problem.
he's giving an argument why you shouldn't, but we
Okay.
have the authority, so.
Okay.
Okay. Did anyone in the audience care to speak about this? Are you all set?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Item number 5, David Cox on behalf of the Rochester Christian School, 260 Embry Road, Rochester, New York, 14625, requests a special permit under Chapter 250, Article 1012A and Article 1012B1 of the code to allow a larger freestanding sign than permitted on property located within the right-of-way of Creek Street. The property is owned by the either the county of Monroe or the town of Penfield, we're not quite sure which at this point in time, and is zoned R120, SBL number 108.11-1-1.1, application number 17Z-0040. You're on.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm David Cox with Pastoral Associates, here on behalf of the Rochester Christian School. We're requesting an area variance for a 26 square foot sign where 20 is allowed by code. The school's pretty unique in the fact that it's really tucked in behind all these residential properties and that it's not visible from Creek Street, which is all the access to the site. So the only way that you know where Rochester Christian School is from this sign by the road. So the existing sign served its useful life. The wood's starting to rot. It needs to be replaced. So since they need to replace it, they thought there has been some concerns and comments from visitors or people who have visited the school, and it really came down to 3 kind of complaints, you should say. One is they get complaints that people say, I drove up and down the road and I couldn't find you. It took me a while to find it. That's number 1. Number 2, they're driving by the time they actually can read the sign and see the sign, it's kind of too late to try to get on the brakes and turn, so they drive by it and then they have to do it, turn around and come back. Or they actually see the sign and then they brake pretty hard, and then creating an unsafe condition maybe where they could get rear-ended. So the existing sign has lettering of 4.5 inches. That's legible from 120 feet. This is a 35-mile-an-hour road. At that speed, you need 136 feet for safe reaction time and braking. The new sign is a 6-inch lettering, so it's bigger, and that's legible from 150 feet. So that actually does provide enough reaction and braking time to be able to slow down and make the turn in a safe way. The new sign will be made out of heavy-duty urethane plastic, so it'll last much longer and look a lot nicer for much longer than the existing wooden sign. It's going in the exact same location as the existing sign, so there wouldn't be any change to the character of the neighborhood. There wouldn't be any physical or environmental impacts. There's really not another way to achieve that visibility without making the sign a little bigger. Is it substantial? Looking at the signs, when you're going, the sign will be a foot taller at the very, very top, and it'll be 2 feet wider. So, when you look at these pictures, having it 1 foot taller and 2 foot wider doesn't appear to be that substantial. Self-created, the property is tucked in way back with no visibility. It's really, the sign is the only way to identify the sign. But the main reason for the bigger sign is the safety concern with trying to get that proper safe braking distance and reaction time to be able to turn into the school. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just wondering how excited you were to come up after the last variance.
One sign.
Yeah, right.
Taking one down, putting one up.
Okay, so let's go over a few things. Number 1 is it's going to be exactly where it is
right
now.
Correct.
Okay. It's going to be 6 square foot larger.
Yes.
Okay. How about lighting?
There will be some ground-mounted lights on either side of the
So directional up. So, and then the second question was, it's a 2-sided sign.
Correct.
Okay. You did provide very good information from NACTA about the different driving sites and how far it is. Okay, and I appreciate that because it makes it easy. When you put this sign up, okay, we have some graphics here. Okay, do you see that? Okay, that's not allowed. Okay, just to inform you. And
okay.
And also flag signs. And you guys have it. I live 5 houses away from that corner. Okay.
Okay.
So I know the problems on that
very
corner.
Familiar. Yeah.
I know the signs that are there, and I know what happens on it. Very wonderful Christian school, very, very wonderful place. But we can have flags put up, okay?
Okay.
Those are really bad. You can come in and get permits for them. Am I correct, Jimmy?
Yes,
if
but
you
only
want to
at
put a
certain number of
flag up.
times a year.
Yeah, at certain times of the year.
Okay.
Please come in and do that. If we approve this sign, please eliminate the top part of that and the flag signs, okay?
Okay.
Okay, that's all I have.
Any other thing from the board?
Would they be able to put a, I don't know, an attachment with their number on it? And no?
Well, they could letter it if they wanted to.
Well, they could, I mean, Marie brought up a good point that websites change, everything
Right.
changed, telephone numbers change. But if they were to incorporate something that was like separate from the sign, but that could be screwed
Removable
into it,
piece or
removable,
pop in.
that could be incorporated into the sign. The big issue really is, and I know the board did approve a sign at that location back in 2004.
Oh, yeah, now.
And I've been wrestling with you now for the last week or so regarding, it's in the right-of-way, it's not on private property.
Correct.
The board did get approval from the town board back in 2004, but there's still a question as to which right-of-way it is. Is it the right-of-way of Creek Street or is it the right-of-way of Embry Road? Do we know that?
We do not know that yet.
I've wrestled with it myself. I cannot figure out which right-of-way it is. I'm assuming since the town board approved it, they assumed it was the right-of-way of Embry Road, and that's why it's where it is. So.
Okay, and one last thing that I forgot I have on my notes.
Well, hold on a second, Joe.
Yeah,
So that question that you asked, and we don't have the answer, what relevance does that play to our application tonight?
We probably need to know at some point in time. It has no
But not
relevance
for-
because, no,
okay.
you can approve it as he's proposing it if
All right.
you wish. We need to find that out, though, for
Sure.
liability issues, if
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
else. The other thing is, I did notice as I was driving northward, you do need to trim that tree.
Yeah, that was
If you're
my
coming from
point.
the south, heading north, you would not be able to see your sign as it's proposed now.
Correct.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, that was my other thing, Danny, was the trees. Do you have any friendship or whatever capabilities of talking to the property owners there and having some of them trees trimmed? Because even in this sign here, it's obvious. You know, again, I live north of you, so as I come up, I don't see the sign till you're right on top of it, and that's the road.
I think there is some relationship with the property owner down here to be able to trim these. I do not know about this individual, the northern property owner, though. There's a kind of a shrub here that, you know, if we're trimmed back, helps that sight line as well.
Mm-hmm. So that one's not as bad as coming
Correct.
from the south-north.
Right.
Sorry, that's all I have.
Okay, anyone in the audience? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 6, Teresa Vigiani, on behalf of the Eider Associates LLC, 205 St. Paul Street, Rochester, New York, 14604. Request a special permit under Chapter 250, Article 1013C of the Code to allow a second wall-mounted sign at 1851 Empire Boulevard. The property is owned by Eider Associates LLC and is owned general business. SBL number 093.15-1-60, application number 17Z-0044.
Hi, everyone. I'm Teresa Vigiani. I'm here on behalf of Eider Associates. Like Jim said, to request a second building sign at 1851 Empire Boulevard, as well as placement on the existing monument sign. We're requesting this this additional sign on the east elevation due to, specifically when you're traveling westbound, the mature vegetation that's more or less on the property to the east of us. It basically blocks your visibility of our sign on the south elevation, as well as our existing monument sign. So you wouldn't really see it if you're traveling westbound until you're almost right on top of it. Similar to what he was just saying, you know, the speeds on Empire Boulevard along with the traffic flow. By the time you saw the south elevation sign and our monument sign, you'd have to either brake hard or really be searching it out, and we just feel that it's not a safe environment. So we also have a unique situation in that the property immediately to the east of us, we have an easement, so we have a secondary access point through Bay Road. So when you're coming off of Bay Road through the neighboring plaza, the east elevation would almost act as directory signage as well. So without that, I mean, you can see the simulations that we did here. The mature vegetation, which is mostly on our neighboring property, which we have no control over, can't remove. Without that without that means of the secondary sign there, it's almost like you wouldn't see the signs on our south and pylon until you're right on top of it. So it's kind of an unsafe environment. And frankly, as you guys probably know, this building has been vacant for quite some time. Rite Aid obviously didn't make it. American Home Patient, even though they're still at the property, they're in the back, they had to downsize. I mean, we've not had a good track record at this property. So we have a tenant willing to sign a minimum 10-year lease. It's in line with the general approved usage for this property. So we feel like it's a good tenant for the property. We feel like we have to do everything we can to make these guys successful, and definitely it's not your problem, but if we don't get this signage, I have a bad feeling that they probably won't sign. Again, not your problem, but in light of the fact that this property's been vacant, we really would appreciate your consideration of this request.
Did you have 2 signs when it was Rite Aid?
We didn't.
Okay, and
They
do you
were
know,
on the
do you know why?
pylon. You know what, I don't know. No, they were only on the south elevation and the pylon sign.
Yeah, I no offense to Rite Aid, but that didn't last very long.
No.
And we've had similar requests for other commercial establishments along that way, and
Sure.
I was just in one the other day that the owner said that still hearing from customers that the pylon sign's too small. And
Yeah, it is small. That's the other
So we
thing.
may
It's
see
only
that
4
person as well.
foot, I believe, our
Yeah.
pylon. Yeah.
Okay, and if somebody uses the entrance down off of Bay, actually, by, is it Pier 1?
Sure.
That entrance there, they can actually drive to your location.
Absolutely, yeah, they can go through that plaza and come right into our building.
But if they turn into that entrance, there's no way they're going to be able to see that either sign from there.
No, not from the south and not the monument sign, absolutely
Okay.
not, no. So
Okay.
really, we would need that east elevation sign, for sure.
And about what point between that entrance that I was just talking about and the red light, let's say, would you be able to see that sign? Maybe when you're halfway through that plaza?
Yeah, maybe a bit more.
Okay. All right. And do you know how much building signage you would be allowed in terms of square footage based upon?
Well, Jim, yeah, he reached out to me today and advised it was 204, I believe.
It's actually, their building length is 128.8 feet. They're
Right.
entitled to about 256 square feet of signage for the building. I contacted their sign person today. I don't even know where they are.
Pride sign, yeah, they're out of Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
They
they're
were
not here.
supposed to be here, but
But he
they,
was good enough to get back to me, and I asked him to measure out the lettering for the signage. And he did that for me, and he did it in a way that he followed the lines of the writing, of the text. And that came out to 89.56 square feet per sign. So you multiply that by 2, that comes out to 179.12, so they're about 77 square feet less than what they're entitled to by code.
Okay. And as we were talking earlier in the work session, you're using the letters only, the
That's
area of the
right.
letters only, not the green back.
No, if there were other things on the green, like a border or
Sure.
something like that, we would
Yeah.
incorporate that.
But
into the sign.
even if you were to use the green, they'd still be below what they're allowed.
No, if they were to use the green, they would be quite a bit over.
They would be,
I think
okay.
it's 11 feet by 44 feet, if I'm not mistaken, with the dimensions on the application. So they'd have been way over.
But that's okay. I
But
thought we had.
as I say, in
yeah.
this case, we would only, it would only include the text. He also measured out for me, if we were to just box out the text, which would still leave some green area in there, that would come out to 96.25.
Okay, so I misunderstood you, because I know you mentioned that.
Yeah, so they're
So,
still under signage.
Did this store did they used to have a location in Baytown?
they didn't. They're apparently, Baytown was their second
Okay.
option.
Well, so do you have any idea, or is there anything in the proposed lease, if you can disclose it, that would limit the amount of signs they put on the inside of the windows?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer.
All right, the reason I'm asking that is we have had instances before where we've either denied or granted more signage than is allowed.
Sure.
And then users of those buildings have filled the windows with signs from the inside, which I guess aren't signs per the code.
Right.
But it doesn't always look nice,
Sure.
to be honest with you.
Well, I'm
If they're
sure
having
they
a
would.
special, occasionally, that sort of thing, but
Right.
I guess I would ask you to encourage them to
Yeah, I mean,
limit the use of that.
if you were to approve what we're requesting, I'm pretty certain they would be willing to accommodate that request, which is minor.
They have odd windows anyways because of the old Rite Aid requirement.
Yeah,
They
you mean
want
the diamond
storage.
shapes?
Yeah, they're
Diamonds,
not,
yeah.
they're not floor to
The most
ceiling.
of the glass is right at the entry point.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, one other question is, what's the intent with the rest of the building in terms of color schemes? You're not going to leave it blue, I wouldn't think, are you?
No, they would be changing all that out to the green, whatever the green is.
So you'd have a green trim and-
Aluminum trims, yeah.
Okay.
Same with the pilot, same with the monument sign. Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, no, the blue would all be gone.
Yeah. All right, anything else from the board? No? Anyone in the audience? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 7, Chris Butler, Brinker International, 6820 LBJ Freeway, Dallas, Texas, 75240. Requests a special permit under Chapter 250, Article 1013C of the Code to allow greater building-mounted signage than permitted at 1960 and 1968 Empire Boulevard. Properties are owned by 1968 Empire Associates LLC and Zone General Business. SBL numbers 093.02-1-14 and 093.2-1-15. Application number 17Z-0045. Now, I'll note to the board that those two properties have been re-subdivided into one since the last time that you saw this application. They just have not yet been recorded in the county clerk's office for taxation purposes, so. You're on.
Good afternoon. My name is Landon White. I'm from Site Enhancement Services, 6001 Nims Parkway, South Bend, Indiana, and I'm representing this property here.
Go Irish, by the way.
Go Irish, that's
Yeah,
right.
way to go.
Come on now. And we are requesting a special use permit here for 15 square foot additional of signage for this building, one on the front elevation, one on the rear elevation, and then the left elevation, totaling 155 square feet, whereas the allowed usage is 140 square feet. So we're asking for a minor special use here, or minor deviation from the code. The intent and the idea behind these signs is for wayfinding, and if you drive down these roads, you drive down Empire Boulevard, I believe coming east, not as much of an issue, but when I came back west and I started to look at the building and where it was set, to me there's this the sign that is on the west side of the building, that is proposed to be on the west side of the building, would provide actually a wayfinding sign and an ability and kind of just a visual cue for that's where the Chili's is, because the approved freestanding stand is actually on the other side of the property, and I can't remember off the top of my head. It's bad, but I don't remember how fast I was driving. I think it's either 35 or 40 going down that road, and it's a four-lane road. And I came down westbound, or I came westbound, and I was in the right-hand lane, and I started to think of how that would play out if you're there looking for the Chili's. You see the freestanding sign on the other side of the property. This westbound facing sign would provide wayfinding and kind of visual cue, like, hey, the Chili's is here, instead of driving past the property. And
you turn into Applebee's and you turn around and then you go,
yeah, and I noticed the Applebee's has one sign on the front, and that does not do justice for wayfinding because they have one access point.
Right.
And so, and for safety's sake, I believe that this is necessary to have these signs, and then the rear-facing sign would advertise towards people coming out of the Walmart, give the building identification, and that's on Brand Point Drive.
Okay. Would you do me a favor, and Kaz, if you want to help, that's fine. I just want to make sure that I understand what was granted before, because honestly, we have an application, we deal with it, and I forget about it right away.
Yeah, and I apologize if there's a lack of communication
And then
there.
what you're proposing to change from what was approved.
What was approved was a 22 square foot sign on the front, which we could probably all agree that's not enough for identification on facing Empire Boulevard, which is your main thoroughfare. There was a to-go sign that was approved on the west elevation, and then the 61 square foot Chili brand was on the rear side of the building. Excuse me, I apologize. the 61 square foot was on the west elevation, and the to-go was on, I believe, the east elevation, what was approved. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What was submitted was a 62.5 square foot Chili's channel letter and the brand, the chili itself, on the front elevation. They also submitted Chili's channel letters on the rear side of the building, and then the 61.5 square foot Chili's brand on the west elevation.
Okay. Do you know what prompted the change in thought, or just a reexamination of the road and?
Yeah, and I believe it was an attempt to look and realize that there's multiple access points, and that's necessary for wayfinding.
But really, so nothing happened with the construction or anything like that? It's
No.
just, nothing's changed except a point of a perspective, let's
Right,
say.
perspective. And also this fits their brand, it's kind of copacetic with the rest of their buildings and how they try to brand their buildings.
Okay. All right.
Do you have a rendering of the building as to how these would scale out if you were to look at it from the road?
Yes, I have copies here.
I believe I only have 5. Well, they're the 5 that you want to give them to. And that's it.
Thank you.
We can look at one together.
No, I'll take that one.
Oh, did I have it? Yeah, you did.
I gave you
Oh, cool.
That's okay.
And I believe it looks like this section of the town is being built up, and it's becoming more of a commercial area. And I personally, I don't mean to be negative anyway, but there are signs that need to be updated up in that area. But this provides a aesthetic appeal, an aesthetic building that's going to be appealing to the eye. It's going to add signage. Granted, and I know we're concerned about number, but I believe that these are good-looking signs. They're not external exposed neon, but they're internally illuminated, and they're going to help the aesthetics of that area.
And the Chili's, is that, that's on the back of the building facing into the plaza?
That would be on the west elevation.
So
that's oriented towards
more south?
Brand Point, yeah, towards the south. Or
No, that would be to the north.
oh, I apologize. I'm getting my directions all mixed up here.
So do you have a map you can throw up, or one of these?
I think I gave you my last copy.
Go ahead, here, take this one. You can take that back and use that. Because it's kind of the directions there on Empire are a little bit off. Boy, oh boy.
And so, Empire Boulevard runs east and west, correct?
Kind of, that's what we're talking about.
It would be southwest.
And so the proposed Chili brand would be on this elevation facing Brand Point Drive, which would also orient towards. And that's when I also drove up Brand Point Drive, headed towards Empire Boulevard. I realized that this rear wall sign actually advertises or provides more wayfinding than this particular this elevation. But this does serve a good purpose coming down Empire Boulevard towards the Chili's, because, and there's trees that are, they look to be about 30 foot or so, that at different breaks and points you can see that elevation, and there's other points where you couldn't see the freestanding, where the proposed freestanding sign is.
Okay. And I'm sorry, could you point out on that map where the to-go sign is?
The to-go sign, which was proposed on this elevation, which they're hoping actually to do away with that to-go sign, have their front elevation facing Empire Boulevard, and then this being your rear building sign in the rear.
So no to-go sign anywhere?
No, they were wanting to do away with that, if that's it.
Go ahead, Marie.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
So,
Hungry, but I'm done.
yeah, kind of hungry too now. So I watched the November meeting, and the to-go sign was really important at that point.
I recall exactly the same thing.
And so I'm wondering what's changed, and if you're thinking a smaller to-go sign down the line?
To be honest, I'm not sure what their thinking was.
I mean, it was a big, it was, I wasn't on this
Because
board yet.
I
It was a
wasn't
big point of
involved with
discussion.
it at that point. We got the call on Monday that they wanted us here tonight, and so
Okay.
I've done my best to catch up as best I
Okay.
can and understand.
So you're not sure what the change was?
No, I'm not sure exactly what the change.
But you are sure of the position now is?
Yeah, the position now is they
Gone.
would disregard the to-go sign. and
No, but Marie's right, because I think
Yeah, I
originally they
remember that,
wanted
too.
8 signs, and that was, and the to-go narrowed down to 3 was one of the most important signs in the
Right.
original 8.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't say that in here, but you're saying it on record. You know, it doesn't say anything
Right.
about the to-go sign.
Right, and I'm saying on record that this is what they would like to go for. Is
So
to-
you don't know what happened, but?
I don't
okay.
know the intent, I don't know the reasoning.
Okay.
But
Mike, you have something?
No, no.
Anybody else on the board?
Wait a minute, say that one more time. Okay, you said they would like to. Would they like to, or they're going to eliminate the to-go sign?
if they're approved for the additional 15 square foot, then they will do away with the to-go sign.
Okay, that's very clear.
Yep. Okay, anyone in the audience care to speak about this? Thank you very much.
Item number 8, Peter Bars, on behalf of BME Associates, 10 Lithbridge Lane, Fairport, New York, 14450. On behalf of Nalgi Nunk International Corp., request an area variance from Chapter 250, Article 5.8C2 of the Code to allow the subdivision of property with less open space area than permitted at 75 Panorama Creek Drive. The property is owned by Nalgi Nunk International Corp. and is zoned limited industrial. SBL number 138.08-1-56.1, application number 17Z-0041.
Go ahead.
Evening.
Hello.
Peter Vars, who was on the agenda, couldn't make it tonight. I'm Mike Bogajewski from BME Associates. We're here tonight to represent Nalgi Nunk International for an area variance to request less than the minimum required open space, which is 35%. The property that we're looking at is located at 75 Panorama Creek Drive. It's the current Thermo Fisher manufacturing facility, currently zoned light industrial. The reason for the request is Nalgi is looking to convey a portion of their property to the adjacent owner. And through that request, we've been working with the town on the lot line adjustment. And through that review, the need for the request was identified. The Nalgi would like to retain 15.8 acres in order to maintain their current operations, and then convey approximately 22.4 acres, which is this. If you look at the map, the existing property is this pink color and yellow color. The Nalgi would like to convey this yellow color, combine it with the blue. The remaining lands would be the pink, 15.8 acres. That would yield approximately 12.6% open space, which is a reduction from the 35% required. Some kind of key points to identify here is there's no new features proposed. Everything is staying existing with the lot line adjustment and conveying the rear portion of the property. Nothing will be affecting the surrounding neighborhood. There's no new impervious proposed. One of the benefits of it, and one of the main reasons, is this portion here is what's known as the old Camp Hackamo site. Their access is currently through an easement through the Thermo Fisher property. So they'd like to remove that and then in the future be able to access the site to the rear of the Nalgi property by conveying this land, combining it with this property here, they'll be able to do that and allow Thermo Fisher to retain their 15.8 acres. So with that, I'd like to open it up to any questions from the board.
Where's the access gonna go?
Right now, they're looking at,
Still looks like it's landlocked to me.
there's currently an existing access here that Nalge uses.
Right.
So they would be able to extend from that, but then they wouldn't have to go through their parking lot to get back to it. It would provide room for a new access.
But do they own the property to the right side of that? Where you're pointing out
This
now?
is
Yeah.
a different parcel.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're not gonna go through that? I'm confused. Instead of, if I can come out.
Sure.
So what you're saying is, this is where the access is now?
Yes.
They want eventually to do this?
No, eventually they would come from here around the
Wouldn't they have
backside.
to go through these two parcels?
They would look at either combining through here and accessing through here, or there's an existing easement through here also. But right now, they're going through Thermo Fisher site, so they would look in the future at some point to remove that and look to either do something through this site, which would most likely happen, and then extend from this
Which
existing
would
easement.
require the consent of these.
Which would require the consent of these two properties.
So maybe they can do it and maybe they can't.
Yes.
Well, I think, this is the point, it's going to be under one entity of people. It's not going to be broken up.
That is a good point. Well, I should clarify.
That's where the.
All the blue and the yellow is
Will all
going to
be
be,
one group.
the plan would be.
That's right.
Become blue, and then it would become
Yeah,
under one entity.
Under one control, let's put it that way. So I think if they have their druthers, they won't need permission because they'll be.
So one owner is gonna acquire all the blue and the yellow, if this
Yes,
is
that's
approved?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yellow would become blue, and then it would become,
And that owner would then, at some point in time, create a buffer from Nalge to accommodate whatever development is they're proposing in the future.
exactly. Their plan is to put up, I think, a fence behind the backside of Nalge if and when any future development happens on these rear parcels. And it would also allow for any future buffer can be accommodated to the Nalge parcels.
Can you give me an approximation, if we had to draw a line on the yellow portion
Mhm.
to keep Nalge in compliance with the green space, you know where that would be? In other words, how much of that yellow part is required to get to
So-
35%?
So to meet 35% within the 15.8 acres requires 5.4 acres, I believe it was.
Out of 22, so about a quarter of that?
So about a quarter of that, you would be in here somewhere to stay in compliance, so. To stay in compliance, if you look at any kind of future use of these rear parcels, if they do convey this, it would really hinder access to the Hackmore parcel, and they would still have to retain access through the Thermo Fisher site, which is what they're trying to get away from.
And Thermo Fisher wants to have autonomy from this operation as well.
Exactly.
Okay. And any development of that parcel would require a buffer? Is that what we're saying?
Yes, I think that if the development occurred at some point in time on that remainder of that parcel, obviously the planning board and even this board might be obligated to require that some kind of a buffer, whether it be a planted buffer or a fenced situation, whatever the case may be, or even setting back structures from that property line and incorporating some kind of development, a buffer development between them and Nalge. That could be a condition of site plan approval or whatever the case may be.
For the new owner.
For the new
Not
owner.
for Nalgene, who's.
No, it would be, the owner side would be on the new owner to create a buffer for whatever it is that person or entity is developing.
Okay, and you're
Is that
not
even
calling a
enforceable?
fence a buffer, right?
It could be, it depends on the
Well,
situation.
Yeah, right, but not in this.
We're considering a 10-foot fence as a buffer tonight, so depends on what you look at. And I think a lot of it will depend on, too, what is proposed for the area and how it interacts with Nalge. You may not need a buffer depending on what the use is, depending on that situation.
Looking, I'll also add to Jim's comments. looking at any kind of future development, which is what conveying this parcel off, this property does have a lot of like steep slope areas and areas where you're not going to place a lot of new development. So the existing buffers kind of would be maintained also. So that part of the reason to be able to access through this portion is this site, looking at topography, goes up. So access isn't very easy coming from any kind of access through here. So it really does need to kind of hug the backside of the Thermo Fisher property, which is another reason for.
There are a lot of, that is the only flat area, really. The rest
it really is the only flat area.
The rest of it starts to go upward,
steep and goes up.
certain areas in that property, especially as you're running along the 441 ramp area up there. That's all steep slope area as well.
Is the zoning of the blue currently the same as what Nalgene is zoned at?
I believe it's all light
All the
industrial?
properties are zone limited industrial.
Or limited, okay.
Yeah.
And I guess from a visual perspective, the pink portion there, I mean, we think in terms of green space as being intermingled in a defined parcel, but really from the pink portion is basically either building or parking area with a little bit of green, and that yellow portion, the blue portion, the blue portions are all at this point undeveloped and look like they're one surrounding thing. So I think visually it makes less of an impact to take away that green space because it's not obviously part of Nalgene to begin with.
It's very separate. The use is existing. The neighbors are used to the existing use being there, so you're not changing anything visually as far as the neighborhood goes. So.
And at this point, where's the nearest residential properties to this? To the yellow portion that we're talking about?
It would be to the west over here.
Allen's Creek Valley.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
So how much would this variance restrict Nalgene's ability to expand on the pink?
It would restrict it, but they're not looking to expand or do anything. They're okay with
present operation.
Present operation. So that's why they're looking to do this. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else from the board? Anyone in the audience? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're not going to even remember who Peter Vars is.
Who is he? A figment of our imagination.
I was able to change it up from a sign to.
You'd be hurt to hear you say that tonight.
I'll hear from him. All right, I think that was the last application. Is that correct?
That's it.
So we will adjourn the public hearings, take a brief recess, and then reconvene in the back of the room. Everybody's refreshed. Let's go to number one, please.
Number one is the fence, that's mine, and the...
By the way, we're still going to follow the same secret procedure that we've been doing for the last year and a half, at least for tonight, right?
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. Well, I was going to get right to the secret.
Start, then I say, don't forget about secret, and then we go on.
The truth will set you free. Right? Okay, I want to say, I'll make a motion, it's the type 2 action.
Any further discussion on that? No. I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye. Okay, now we'll go to the fence and the shed. I would like to make a motion to grant both variances. I know we don't usually do that with a 10-foot fence, but his property is quite low. I mean, they have a hedge there, and he gave me a reason why he has to take the hedge down to get the shed in there if he has it already built. He is using a little bit of ungraded land, and I think this is a little unique, Mike, because his lot maybe does go back 20 feet, but then it drops like a rock, which none of it is usable. So with that, I make a motion that we grant the variances.
I'll second that. So is this a matter of degree on Mike's point about how much square footage do you have that you'd be able to use?
Yeah, if his whole lot was flat, I would definitely say no, and then move it in the back. You know, he has another option.
So it's a unique situation. There's not enough flatness, if you will, for you to say that this is an unreasonable application.
Yes, that's correct.
And you feel presumably you feel the opposite.
Yes.
Okay.
I have to say, I feel like 10 feet is extreme.
It's almost double.
Yeah. I'm having trouble with that.
Okay.
And I don't think he's shown a reason why he can't put it in the garage. There's flat area there. Everybody that comes here could have the same argument. You move it 10 feet in,
Yeah,
off the side
yeah.
lot line, you're using up your available
Where you
space.
want to have your play catch.
He's
and
got
that
an
sort of
awful
thing.
big yard there.
Yeah.
It's still, it might be graded, but it's still usable.
All right, so you're objecting to both variances?
Yes.
And what do you feel about the shed location?
I feel like it's going to be problematic down the line if we
Okay.
grant it here.
Okay, I mean, regarding other applications?
Mhm.
Okay. You've stated your case. I think I knew that was coming. That's why I
Yeah,
tried
no,
to
I know,
get
and
that.
that's why I tried to say, to me, this
No,
is
I
a
understand.
unique situation because of the level of the land in the back.
Okay.
So,
All right. Any further comments? No, so,
To me, it was, that topography in back makes it so you can't put, most people want to put a
Exactly.
shed in the back of their yard and kind of keep it out of the way and in back and gone.
Yep.
And, I think this is, in a sense, this is the closest you can get to being away from the house without.
and semi-flat.
You're right.
And I can, I can
Off the lot
probably be
line,
supportive of the shed variance.
Well, I guess I
but
see, yeah.
but
I
not
see.
the fence.
all right, well, but your motion is to approve both.
Yes.
and you got
shed
a natural
and fence.
buffer you're taking out. He's already buffered it. He's already buffered above 10 feet.
But if he
You're
tries to get a
moving that
shed back there, fully built,
1
you
foot
can't
from the
do it.
lot line, you want to put a 10-foot board fence behind it.
Hey, I asked him a question. If he has to try and paint it, that's his problem to get okay from the
No,
neighbor.
but it's not his problem.
Yeah, but it's
we're
not,
okay
we,
with
look
it.
at, when it comes to the fence, if he put a 6-foot fence in there, it'd be legal. He can put it right on the property line. Am I correct?
Yep. That's why I
Okay,
asked the
so,
question.
well, my point was, if it's a 6-foot fence and he can do it without us, I understand the 10-foot, because when I went there, I'm sitting there looking at people in the pool, and they're looking at me like, what the heck? And that's where the shed would be.
But it's self-created, John.
Would it help if the fence were indented a couple of feet for maintenance purposes? And also, the closer the fence comes to their house, the more privacy they have from...
Well, I think if you
I don't
move the
wanna
fence
use their whole
in,
yard.
Yeah,
if you
he's
move
gotta-
the fence in, the
he's
shed
gotta
has to
move
move
the
in,
shed
sure.
in. I mean, to keep it level.
So if he's
So-
looking for privacy,
Okay, well,
You
I,
putting any
you know,
conditions about the other structures on the property?
The ones that Mike asked.
You know,
got
I-
wooden
if-
structure on one side, he's got another cabinet.
Plastics.
and
At
that
least
I
one,
would
maybe
agree with,
two.
tell you the truth, I forgot that, so add that in. If they remove the rest of them, yes, they're granted this variance. If not, no.
That's your motion.
Yep.
I'm still opposed.
It's okay. But thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Anything else?
Yeah, the fence height, I don't have a problem with that. I guess, the more I'm hearing you guys talk about the distance from the shed, I'm trying to think of the last shed we did allow that close to a
Had
fence.
so many of them.
And if they've actually been that close, where it's only been 1 foot, because I feel like there was the one that, where was it? We asked the same question. How are you going to maintain it? I'm trying to remember if we
It
brought
wasn't
them
all
back.
that long ago.
No.
I remember asking.
No, I'm trying to remember if we brought them back
Made
from
them
the
come
1
back.
foot. Yeah.
It's actually a fairly wide lot too, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Never mind the depth.
All right, so you have a motion to, did we get a second?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve with conditions, the conditions being get rid of the other stuff.
Yep.
And we have a second on that. Any further discussion on that?
Do you want to do them separately?
Well,
Given what Marie said,
that's sort of a motion to split them. Do you mind if we do it that way?
Well,
You may.
but
That's
yeah,
fine.
I mean, I'd have to ask you, which, you like the fence or you don't like the fence?
I don't like either one.
Well, then why would
I
they
don't like
split
the
it?
fence- I don't like the fence and I don't like the shed a foot from the lot.
Okay, so then no, I don't
Well,
want to split it.
Well, but it was Marie that was.
But now,
Okay.
most likely, if we don't allow the shed,
Yeah,
or it's the fence is not going to happen because it's not needed.
That's right. That's why I'm saying, which one do you like? If you don't like one, well, the other one's irrelevant. So, no, I don't want to split it.
Okay.
Okay. Wow.
Well, hey,
Ed, hey, listen.
go for the gold.
A motion to approve with condition and a second. No further discussion. All those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Here.
Okay, well, that's about as close as you're gonna get, folks. Okay, so number 2.
That is me, I believe. Here, hold on. Go back to my notes. This is the Clark Road addition, correct? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yep. Motion declared type 2, no further review required.
Second that? give it to Mike on the second. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I am going to make a motion to grant the variance.
2 variances?
One variance.
Which one?
Well, there's only one, well, there's one variance.
Here we
and
go
there's-
again.
Well, no, I mean, if we're going to do it, let's
Just say 2 things.
I'm going to make a motion to grant the variance to the pre-existing,
Expanding the pre-existing non-conforming
yes,
use.
yes,
Give
thank you.
permission to do that and grant the variance.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, so we'll do all that. The way this house was built, it was built so far back that I think the road has crept closer to it. The house is 28 feet from the front for the setback. The entire addition is to the back except for the garage, and because of the construction aspects and the layout, you'd either have to make the addition even larger to push the garage back farther, or probably have a smaller garage that wouldn't fit vehicles in it, and then you're back to not having a garage that's usable.
I second it. I second.
All right, a motion to approve in a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All right. Let's see, number 3.
Yep. That's me, Watson Hulbert. I'll do the seeker first. I'll make a motion to classify this as unlisted.
No, you don't have to.
You don't have to, it's already been done?
That's right, yeah.
By Walworth.
That's right, Walworth.
Oh,
So
okay.
Walworth is lead agency, and they already found that.
Excellent.
That.
Oh, great, okay.
You're going to be starting a civil war with Walworth.
Well, then I'll make a motion then to grant this variance based on the fact that this is a necessity based on requirements for emergency access, and I think it's also septic or water that
It's the only point of access
Yeah, it's the
to
only
the
point of
property. They can't-
access.
There's wetlands and everything else to the
Yeah,
site.
he made it clear that there was no other way to do this, and also, this has been granted preliminary approval in Walworth and by Penfield Planning.
There's still going to be, what remains, there's still pretty big lots still.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Let's see, who else is, what's here? 4 we can skip, it looks like, for now. 5. Yep. No, all right. 6, Dollar Tree. I am going to make a motion to approve the application.
Seeker.
Oh, yes, okay, unlisted, I make a motion that it's unlisted action.
Second.
Mike.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for that. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the application.
Second.
Again, with everything happening in this area, I just, largely from my votes over the months is that we need to do what we can to help businesses. Empty buildings along Empire are not a good thing. And I certainly get the full green versus the letters. I understand that totally, and we can do that. But I think either way, given the size of this building and the fact that you will have some people coming from the other way, I think it's good to have 2 signs. So that's my motion.
And the freestanding sign is just a pop in from what's there now from the American Home Patient sign?
Yeah, so they would just put a Dollar Tree logo. So that's approved as well? Okay. Great, thank you guys.
But we didn't vote yet.
It's close. Here we go.
All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good night.
You too. Okay. 7, Chili's, also mine. Again, I am going to, let's see.
Secret.
Well, no, I hadn't made a mistake yet. You guys already corrected
You were this close.
No. I will make a motion to determine this is an unlisted action pursuant to seeker.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
And it's a neck deck, obviously, that's what you're saying.
Well, of course, yes. Or else I wouldn't be making the next motion to approve the application. They came in, they got much of what they asked for, but not all, and for whatever reason, they took another look at it. I think it's still a reasonable application. We have now their position that they're going to be eliminating the to-go sign.
Yeah, as long as that's it.
And really just ditto with my comments about Empire Boulevard.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve with the condition being that the to-go sign go. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 8.
Okay, for seeker, I'm gonna move that this is an unlisted action, negative declaration.
Second. And further discussion on the seeker motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion itself, I'm gonna move to approve this. I don't think it'll have an impact on the neighborhood. It's needed in order to have the surrounding property development go forward. And as I said, I don't think as a practical matter it's going to have any impact on the neighborhood, at least at this point, until it's developed. So for those reasons, I would move to approve.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion to approve in a second and further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so back to number 4. Is that correct?
Yes. Let's see, number 4 is we'll do a neg deck for this unlisted action. No likely impacts.
Second.
Further discussion on seeker? All those in favor?
Aye. And I'm going to make a motion that we table this until we hear back from the applicant.
You don't want to separate it. Probably not a good idea.
Well, you can make a motion.
I'm not sure the applicant. I'm not sure.
I don't, based on the church coming in and insisting that their board said they wanted to be a part of the application, knowing that their sign was going to be there, I'd rather us hear it as their sign is going to be there and what they want to do about those pole mounted signs.
Good.
So I think I'd rather let them come back with, or else I'm going to actually be opposed to it.
Yeah, I just want to point out, I didn't hear anything that really justified a need for the sign.
For which one?
For the church.
The church.
Not
For the church more so, right. I would think for the Shepherd home,
we're on the same-
absolutely.
Shepherd Home, absolutely.
So it's, even if they take the sign or leave the signs there, I mean, they're basically saying we're doing it because we can, and we think it's more likely to be approved than if we come back at a later time.
Yeah, do it all, as we said, in one fell swoop. That's, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay, now, just out of curiosity.
And I seconded the
Yeah.
table, yeah.
Joe?
Yeah.
If they took those little signs off the poles and put a flag that said that looked exactly the same.
Sign.
A flag is a sign.
Flag is a sign.
The
United States of America, a flag is not a sign.
I've been prevented by code from banners, signs, flags. I think there's a specific prohibition for a flag.
No,
Or not a
if it's, well, no, if it's
Business sign.
if it's a flag of a incorporated
Municipality.
country, yes, you can do it. If it's a flag that says this is the church to go to.
McDonald's has a flag.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, well, you guys.
We're going to vote on the table first, though.
You didn't vote on the table.
Yes, guys, jeez, give me a chance to get where I'm going. Motion to table in a second, all those in favor? Aye.
And did you get the reason why they tabled it?
Information from the applicant about the necessity of the
number of signs requested.
Yep. All right. 5.
Okay, number 5. Unlisted action, no further.
Neg deck.
Like that, yeah.
I'll second that. All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve it, with the stipulation in there that they did kind of promise to get rid of these banners and the flag signs that they're doing.
Second. No one did.
Yeah, Andrews.
And is it a condition, Kaz, do you need a condition that they tell us what about the right-of-way? You want that in there, or is it side?
I'll figure it out.
Okay.
It's our responsibility.
Yep. All right, so we have a motion to approve with conditions about removing the other stuff, the banners and
those
Not
temporary-
putting them up.
temporary
I mean,
banners
they are
and
now
flags.
aware that not to put this banner up and flag signs.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
I'm sure the church will be in for a variance or for a special permit any day.
Tim, couldn't it be in both right-of-ways?
It could, no, well, no, it's either ours or theirs.
No, I'm just saying, it's gonna be on a corner lot, couldn't it be?
Oh, in theory it could, sure.
Well, at some point in time,
expand
it
it to
stops.
well-
There's a legal description for both right-of-ways, I'm just gonna find out.
Yeah, right. Jimmy, I mean, Creek Street is bigger than the other street, so it's probably from
So we
Creek
have
Street.
one,
I'm just making up
how many
point.
tables?
Even more,
Three tables.
more,
We do our last one, next meeting, the last table.
We got 4 and 3.
yeah, we got them all done.
We did.
So we have, now we have, still have 4 tables, but just a different one.
Yeah.
Is everybody been
Oh,
heard?
we need to.
We jump around,
Yeah,
so
you
is
know.
everybody,
Yeah, everybody.
We also need to approve 2 sets of meeting minutes from April, is it?
May and June.
May and June. Okay, those went out. I don't know if anybody had any comments on them or not. All
I
right,
haven't seen.
so I'll make a motion to approve both sets.
Second.
Any further discussion? Mike did.
Yeah.
All right. All those in favor? Aye.
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 So would you like to know what's happening next month? Quickly?
Yeah, there was a little form somewhere, but sure.
Cheers.
Did you get it?
Yeah.
Oh, all right, so you already know.
No, go ahead.
We have 4 applications. The first one is the gentleman who asked for the expansion to a pre-existing non-conforming house over on 250 last month is now coming in again to ask for an expansion to his garage. The second one is Lisa will be back next month. They found somebody to fill the former eyesight location. It's called Back to Bach. It's basically a music school. We're going to move in there. The third one is second freestanding sign for Planet Fitness. And the fourth one is, we've got a daycare coming in on Creek Street up there by Empire Boulevard, right next to CDS Monarch. And they're asking for some setback variances.
Is that gonna be, they're moving in somewhere, or are they constructing?
Constructing.
So that was
It's right on
torn
the
down not long
corner
ago?
of Penweb.
Sort of across from Tim Hortons, right?
Yes.
That general
It's kitty
area.
corner, right. It's just north of CDS Monarch.
Planet Fitness is a building, second building mount, I think you said freestanding.
I'm sorry, you're right.
Building
It's a
mount?
building mount, yes. There's no freestanding.
And we anticipate Haganovic probably coming back after.
No, probably, well, maybe, because you'll be after
Yeah.
that public hearing, so we'll
Right.
see where it goes.
Okay.
Yeah, good point.
So actually, no, we approved Tuzo as well.
Yeah,
So
yes,
we only have 3 tabled now.
Yeah.
Got rid of 2, leaving us 2, and we added 1. Okay, good. Very good. Anything else? All right, then we'll stand adjourned. Good work as always, folks, and see you next month. A lot of recycling.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.